All right. Hello and good morning, everyone. I am David Teicher, the Chief Content Officer here at Brand Innovators, and I would like to welcome all of you to today's live cast, our 2022 Retail Predictions event. I'm going to be your host and Chief Community and Content Officer here. I'm going to be your host for the day. We've got a really fantastic program. I'm super excited as we look out to next year. A remarkable group of speakers today. 7-Eleven CMO Marissa Jarrett, Walgreens CMO Patrick Mclean, Pearl Vision CMO Doug Zarkin, Underground Sellers CMO Dre Madden, and Ulta Beauty's Director Joe Rago. So we're really excited. We're going to talk about all things retail, looking out at next year. This is obviously, as many of you know, the biggest retail moment of the year for many, many brands. During holiday shopping season, coming off Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and just leading into the rest of the year. So super excited to talk about one of the most important topics for our industry right now, this moment. Big shout out and thank you to all of the marketers taking their time to speak today and present with us. And also a big shout out to our friends at the Trade Desk, our partners for today's live cast, and all of our sponsors for making this event possible. And most importantly, thank you to everyone in the audience for tuning in here on Zoom and on YouTube for taking the time to be with us today. Remember, we're live, so we do have a Q&A widget at the bottom of the screen. You can ask questions, submit your Q&A. We do allocate time during the tail end of each fireside chat to get to as many questions as possible, so don't be shy. We want to get to your questions. That's what these events are all about, connecting great people and getting you the insight that's valuable to the day-to-day of your life. So we want to make you smarter. We want to make you better at your job. Ask those questions, and we will do our best to get to as many of them as possible. Now, before we kick off, I just want to take a second to give a little bit of our 2022 outlook as we look forward to next year. We are hopefully going to be back in person. We love seeing everybody here virtually, but we are going to be back in person for some really big events. To start, we're going to kick off the year at CES, Brand Innovators Vegas Live from CES, a 3-day program, January 5th through 7th. We have some amazing speakers that are going to be joining us there, including the CMO of MasterCard, the CMO of Best Buy, the CMO of Cadillac, the CMO of Discovery, the CMO of Activision Blizzard, senior leadership from brands like Twitter, Volkswagen, T-Mobile, MGM, Lenovo, Samsung, and many others, and some big agency leaders as well. So we're really excited for that program. And then we'll also be out in LA for an epic 3-day event hosted by 72 and Sunny during Super Bowl week, as we talk about all things NFL, Super Bowl, sports marketing, entertainment, and cultural relevance. So really hoping to see everybody in person during our 2022 tentpole events. So really excited for that. I know we are all eager to get back to some of those in-person activations and seeing everybody face-to-face, having drinks. You know, it's not the same, when you can't get that in-person human interaction. So we're really excited for next year. So make sure you stay tuned for more information on those events, as we would love to see you all there. And with that, I would very much like to welcome our first speakers. We have Marissa Jarrett, who I mentioned, the Chief Marketing Officer of 7-Eleven, and our moderator, Angel Suarez, the Senior Director of Retail Data Partnerships at the Trade Desk. So let's bring on Marissa and Angel. Hello there, Angel. How you doing?
Hello, doing well. Thank you for the intro, David, and for the energy coming in.
Hey, you gotta have that energy level. Marissa, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We are great. Thank you both so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So I'm going to bow out. Angel, I'll turn it over to you to kick things off and have a great discussion. And I'll be back in a little bit.
Thanks, David.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Hello and welcome everyone to the Brand Innovators Fireside Chat, looking ahead retail predictions in 2022 with Marissa Jarrett, Chief Marketing Officer at 7-Eleven. Marissa, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Angel. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So let's dive right in. To kick things off, I want to chat a little bit about your role. In more recent years, the CMO role has evolved quite a bit to keep up with emerging digital platforms and just changes in shopper behaviors. Can you walk us through a day in the life of a modern CMO in retail?
Yeah, well, there is no typical day in the life, as we all know. It changes every single day. But I guess I would start off with first just saying that, as CMO, as with any marketer, really our first role is to understand and represent the voice of the customer or the consumer, is to be an advocate and an ambassador for the brand that we're building and growing, and ultimately to generate demand for the products and services that we're offering in the marketplace. And so that's really my heart and soul and the core of what I do every day. And how I do that is really what I think getting at your question. It's how you actually do that effectively as a CMO. And it's not enough to just be a great functional leader. It's important to also be a great, really, general manager and to be able to partner cross-functionally and harness the resources and the strength and the input of all of the enterprise in order to do those things, to generate that demand and grow the brand with your customers. We take a really analytical, data-driven approach to marketing. And as part of that, I've made it a point to build a strong relationship with our entire finance team, and in particular, our CFO, to help enroll them in the process and to help them understand how marketing is an investment tool that can be deployed to drive the business. And so with the partnership of our finance team, we've actually defined how to measure the impact of marketing on the business much better than today than we ever have in the past. And in addition to the finance team, I would say that there is just huge partnership that I have and that my team has with other critical functions like our digital function, our IT function. Obviously, our merchandising function is key. And then just as a multi-unit retailer, our operations function, because we know if it don't happen in the stores or in our digital platforms, then ultimately that marketing that we've worked so hard to develop is not driving the business impact that we want it to. So that's really the role of a CMO today. And just kind of personally, I am what I like to describe as a right brain and a left brain thinker. And so I love what I do because I get to do the creative, strategic aspects of marketing, and I can balance that with the analytical, financially driven, operational driven parts of how our business runs. So that's it kind of in a nutshell.
I love that kind of that balance of EQ meeting IQ, which is so important for CMOs today to understand kind of the analytics of it all, but never lose sight of creativity and what really drives emotional connections with your customers. And speaking of that, I'm sure keeping the customer at the forefront is going to be a common theme this morning. I know you've done quite a bit of extensive qualitative and quantitative research, which I imagine is particularly important considering what consumers have been going through over the last couple of years. Can you walk us through what you learned and how that evolved into your most recent brand campaign?
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, in the depths of the COVID pandemic last year in March and April, when as a world we were all changing quickly and trying to figure out what was going on, at 7-Eleven and the marketing team, we had just launched a work stream to define our brand purpose. And as part of that, we had done some extensive research, both qualitative, ethnographic, as well as quantitative research to understand more about who our customers are, both our current customers as well as our growth customers, what drives them, what moves them, and what role the brand plays in their lives. And we took that information, we augmented it with insights around our franchisees, our competitors, what we were trying to achieve from a business perspective, as well as just what was happening in culture. And we mapped out a new brand purpose that we call Activate Awesome. And that really became the driving, light, if you will, or guiding light, if you will, in developing our new campaign, which is called Take It to 11. What we found in the work is that our customers think about 7-Eleven as their ingenious accomplice, this trusty companion that they can count on to take on the unpredictability of life. And that was just so motivating and powerful for the team when we realized that was the role that the brand is playing in the lives of our customers. And you really see it come to life in how we operate, right? When other stores or brands close early, 7-Eleven is open 24/7. When some stores offer coffee, we offer 3,000 ways to customize your coffee. We don't sell slushies, we sell Slurpees. And you and I both know there's a big difference between the two.
I grew up on Slurpees.
That's right. That's right. And then more recently, if you need something delivered, we got you covered. So we worked really hard to incorporate that insight into the campaign of Take It to 11. And what we were trying to achieve with the campaign was to show our customers that the brand is actually unexpectedly awesome, and to bring that energy into the everyday life of our customers. So I'm so proud of the campaign that my team developed. They did an awesome job bringing it to life, and in partnership with our agency partner 360i. And the campaign really showcases the spirit of dialing things up a notch, of celebrating our customers' ability to take things one step further and to take it to 11. It's the first time we've advertised on TV in over 5 years. And we didn't just take a linear approach, as you might imagine. We have a full funnel, linear and digital approach. And that's also helping us understand which channels work really well for our brand, which channels do we need to lean in on, and which channels do we need to learn more about. So now I would say we're focused on bringing Take It to 11 as kind of a mantra to everything that we do across the brand, whether it's launching a new Slurpee drink into space, which you may have heard about earlier this summer, or celebrating our 94th birthday in the process, or even more recently sponsoring a local riot girl band outside of Philly, a band named Froggy, and actually producing a music video for them about a song that they wrote that was an ode to 7-Eleven nachos. So it's kind of infusing the whole team with really a guiding light, and really creating hopefully a spirit for the brand that will be familiar to many of our customers, and I think also really kind of fun and exciting for people who know about the brand but maybe haven't considered it or shopped it recently.
I love that tagline. And I also appreciate how you complemented the age-old approach of gathering consumer insights with taking the time to understand the sentiment of key stakeholders internally, your franchisees, because oftentimes those point of views get lost in the shuffle, but they're super important as you shape your overall strategy. I did have an opportunity to take a look at the TV spots, and I have to say I really dug the mix of diverse talent, the nod towards subculture appreciation, and just an overall cool factor with the music and creative direction. So kudos to you and the team and 360. I kind of dug through the comments, and there was a lot of brand love going on. So it's obvious that you're resonating with your audience. Speaking of audience, let's touch on that a bit. As you look to 2022 and beyond, how critical is it to keep that finger on the pulse year after year to maintain that emotional connection with your customers?
That is a great question. I mean, we're always looking for ways to connect with our customers and new consumers, not only just to engage with the brand, but ultimately to convert that into sales and loyal customers. And we felt, again, this brand purpose work that we did last year really helped to underscore and cement for our team the importance of delivering on an authentic and really personalized and inclusive, to your point, the diversity that we're featuring in our ads is on purpose. We serve a diverse array of customers, and we want to reflect that in the work that we bring to life. So we want to deliver that both in store as well as online, and we think that will help us over time build customer loyalty. Now, I tell you one area where we've started to experiment more. You talk about keeping your finger on the pulse of customer culture and consumer culture and consumer interest. We've all witnessed the rise of micro and nano and macro influencers, for that matter, and how they're making it possible for creators of all kinds to share the love for their favorite brands and really become kind of the next spokesperson. And so we've started to really nurture that approach in our marketing programming over the course of the last year. One recent example is with our Fuel Your Fandom campaign, which is live now. We are inviting 7-Eleven brand fans who are up-and-coming influencers or who are aspiring up-and-coming influencers to really represent our brand in 2022 and do something they're already doing, but partner with us in the process. In addition to that, we've put a bigger focus on developing organic content. And so it's not just about paid media, but it's about developing our brand voice and our organic presence as a way to, more deeply engage with customers. Our social media marketing in particular is really focused on bringing the delight and joy that happens in our stores to life in social media. And so we talk about how it's things that only happen at 7-Eleven. So hashtag only at 7-Eleven. So when our customers post content involving 7-Eleven, which, by the way, if you go to our Instagram feed, you'll see that approximately 30% of our feed is organic content. And we take inspiration from that, right? That's our customers helping us understand what they care about, what interests them. So when our customers post content involving 7-Eleven, we get an inside look into what the brand means for them and how we fit into their world. And we're seeing some really cool expressions of that. Some recent examples are a car meetup. You may have seen this, but again, if you go to our organic social feed on Instagram, you'll see a lot of posts that our brand fans have shared of their cars in 7-Eleven parking lots. Nice. And we call them car fees, like car selfies, because they're like so well photographed and they look so cool in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And it really is a reflection of car culture. And so our customers and fans keep asking us to share more photos about more car fee photos. And so we've started to do that. In fact, a few weeks ago, our Instagram page caught the attention of some TikTok users. It went viral, and suddenly 7-Eleven fans and car enthusiasts alike were planning an unofficial nationwide meetup of cars at local 7-Eleven stores. Wow. Where they could take cool photos inspired by everything that they were seeing online. So we took that. We alerted our stores that, hey, there's this car meetup that's going to happen on November, I think it was 5th or 6th. It was a Friday. And, how can we be prepared for these guests that are going to be visiting our stores and celebrating their cars? And it turned out to be a really great event for both our customers and car enthusiasts who showed up at the meetup, as well as for our stores who loved having this kind of new occasion, if you will, at their stores on a Friday night.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure they appreciate the foot traffic and something fun to see for the customers. Yeah. When consumers are proactively engaging with the brand by way of creating their own content, that's when it's a great sign that you're going in the right direction as a brand. Let's pivot a bit to some big bets this year by way of acquisition. This year, 7-Eleven acquired Speedway, which effectively kind of grew your sales footprint, I imagine, in complementary markets. But I also imagine there's more opportunities to scale your loyalty efforts now with robust first-party data. Can you give us a sense of how 7-Eleven is preparing for 2022 and beyond when it comes to utilizing first-party data specifically?
Absolutely. I want to share a couple of different examples because we are very focused on it for 2022. And I know the topic of this conversation is 2022 predictions. And I fully expect first-party data and personalization to be a common theme across all of these discussions with the panelists. But I would also just tell you, we've been doing this for a while, and we've been leveraging our first-party data and first-party loyalty member data to understand what do they care about? What do our customers need and want? And how do we then tailor our marketing to deliver on their needs and expectations? And one simple example of this that I'm sure many marketers in the audience probably remember, again, going back to COVID, May of 2020, when we were all trying to figure out, what kind of advertising is appropriate at this point in time? How do we connect and help our consumers or our customers? We actually leveraged our first-party data and first-party loyalty data and augmented it with third-party data to do a segmentation of COVID risk tolerance, to understand our customers' comfort level with shopping in our stores during COVID. And based on their risk tolerance or their comfort level with coming into the stores, again, this was May of 2020, so really at the height of the pandemic, we targeted our advertising to them accordingly. So for a customer who was risk averse or really concerned about shopping in stores and wanted to not be going out into the marketplace, then we served them advertising that focused on our delivery platform so that they could shop our assortment and have it delivered to their house with a contactless option fully safe, et cetera, exactly what they needed, right? For those customers who were less risk averse and who wanted to get out to the marketplace, we were able to serve them with ads about our contactless transaction options that were available in store and the different kinds of assortment that we were bringing into the store, like larger sizes of take-home items, et cetera, that they needed, or toilet paper. As everyone remembers, there was a toilet paper shortage last year, right? So we were able to target our marketing in that way. And we benefited from the ability to leverage our first party data as well as loyalty data to understand what our customers needed and then tailor that marketing message to them. More recently, we've made strides in strengthening our personalization program. And you're right, we acquired Speedway in May of this year, and Speedway has a robust loyalty program called Speedy Rewards. Some of the audience members might actually be members of Speedy Rewards. And so if they are, they'll know that that program's been around for about 15 years. So it's well established in the marketplace. And combined with the 7-Eleven Rewards program, we have access to tens and tens of millions of loyalty members' purchase information now. And so it represents an awesome opportunity for us to kind of take the next step in understanding what they need, what they want, how we reward them for purchasing and their loyalty in our stores and on our digital platforms, and really kind of give them and serve them up with the offers, the innovation, even access to exclusive experiences that they care about and that help make their lives better. So we're well on our way there. What's been really cool lately is integrating all of the different digital features that we're rolling out or that we have rolled out during COVID. Things like our mobile checkout program, our 7-Eleven wallet, our fuel loyalty program, delivery obviously continues to expand, along with the continued innovation of our product assortment. That's really making a difference in the lives of our customers and making their lives hopefully more convenient and more enjoyable.
That's great. The ability to aggregate all of that first-party data to make sure that the messages are super relevant to your customers is amazing. Along the same vein as loyalty marketing, in a post-pandemic world, the retailers that seem to be winning most are the ones that make it as easy as possible for customers to get what they need, when they need it, and however they prefer to shop. 2021 will be the first year in which the majority of US consumers have bought groceries via digital channels. Can you help us understand some of the tactics 7-Eleven is leaning into in support of your omni-channel strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of our corporate vision and mission is to provide personalized convenience to our customers anytime, anywhere, when, where, and how they want it. And so for us, that means thinking about where the needs are for our customers. And in some cases, that's in our stores. We have close to 14,000 stores in the US, over 77,000 stores globally. And in the US, more than 50% of the US population is within 2 miles of a 7-Eleven. So we're pretty accessible. Like if you need something, usually you can find a 7-Eleven in most markets. But we also understand that sometimes going to the store is not the most convenient option for customers. And with the advent of delivery in particular, we're leaning in hard on that to really embrace this idea of convenience as more of a mindset and exists, kind of anytime, anywhere. So in 2018, we launched a delivery business, and that business has grown by over 500% in the last 20 months, which is awesome and exciting. And we're really proud of that. And also it is commensurate with the overall growth we're seeing in delivery across the entire marketplace. So we are, working to expand our delivery options as quickly as possible. So again, our customers have what they want when they want it. And as part of that, we have achieved a goal of offering delivery to more than 95% of our US footprint. And that's through a combination of what we call marketplace partners. These are the delivery services that as a consumer, you would know by names of DoorDash or Uber Eats or Postmates, Instacart, for example. We've got partnerships established with 9 different third-party delivery apps. we also have our own proprietary delivery platform called 7Now. And so in addition to those two components, we recently expanded alcohol delivery with on-demand alcohol delivery partners, Minibar and Drizzly. And so that's pretty cool. That's something that 7-Eleven offers that's relatively differentiated in the marketplace, is our ability to deliver age-restricted products within 30 minutes or less, 24/7, in 95% of the US footprint. So we're pretty excited about that. The other thing I would just say is, from a business perspective, delivery is a highly accretive business for us. If you think about our stores and maybe even how you would shop a 7-Eleven store, you might stop by the store in the morning on your way to work to pick up a cup of coffee or to fuel up with gas, or maybe around lunchtime to grab a snack or a drink or something like that. Well, the delivery business is very complementary because we see orders for delivery in the evening hours and on the weekends. So it's really helping us get greater leverage out of our footprint. So we're super excited about that. And it also just reinforces the digital innovation kind of message that we're trying to communicate to our consumers, that, we're not the convenience store of the 50s. We have a tremendous amount of digital transformation, digital solutions available for our customers to transact with us in a convenient way. So delivery is a big one.
That's great. How about some other digital innovations that have been accelerated by the pandemic?
There's a couple. One that I love to talk about is our fuel loyalty program. We recently expanded our exclusive fuel loyalty program to over 1,850 participating stores with 7-Eleven gas pumps. And what's so cool about that program is that you can actually transact through voice at the pump. And so talk about convenient and contactless transaction for fuel. You're also able to lock in prices at a lower rate up to 3 days in advance. So there's some really cool technology there that we're experimenting with. Additionally, we have an in-house R&D team, and they've developed a lot of great technology, one of which is a cashierless store. And so we are in the early stages of expanding out the cashierless stores, which will be another way to provide, contactless convenience to our customers.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember, it feels like yesterday when I was putting my plastic gloves on at the gas pump. So yeah, definitely great innovation there. Let's quickly touch on measurement. So incrementality, sales lift, ROAS, these types of metrics seem to be moving kind of towards the top of the list across all the budgets that CMOs manage. How does 7-Eleven approach all things measurement to optimize and ultimately determine whether a campaign was successful?
Great question. We really think about it in a couple of different ways. I mentioned earlier that the finance team is one of our strategic partners internally. And so early on, we had established this idea of thinking about how we deploy marketing as an investment to drive the P&L and to drive the balance sheet. And so the measurement, the KPIs that we track actually correlate to P&L metrics and to balance sheet metrics. And so, for example, we use test and control methodology. We've got 14,000 stores, so we fortunately have the ability to run test and control models relatively easily. So we use test and control methodology as well as marketing mix measurement to assess the impact of marketing on the business. And those two methodologies really correlate with the P&L impact, which would be sales, trips, orders for delivery, et cetera. Then we also use more what I would describe traditional marketing methodologies to evaluate awareness, consideration, brand equity, and health. And those correlate to what we call balance sheet KPIs. So we're trying to grow the business overnight and grow the brand over time. We need to be doing both. Now, in addition to that, we employ all of the best-in-class campaign measurement tools, marketing measurement tools to ensure we're getting the right ROAS that we want to achieve, the right efficiency metrics and effectiveness metrics. And I would tell you, we measure a lot of different things, not just about the marketing campaigns, but also about consumer perception, both of our marketing, but also of the in-store experience, of our products. We're constantly testing new products and trying to understand, what will drive the most purchase intent and ultimately trips to the store and build baskets. So we use a variety of different methodologies, but we are focused, primarily on making that connection between the marketing investment to the P&L and to the balance sheet.
That's great. And again, kind of always going back to keeping the customer at the forefront, and it's always nice when your efforts lead to sales lift. Having been kind of myself on the agency side, the brand side, and even on the publisher side with Target's Retail Media Network, Roundel, before joining the trade desk, something that I've found fascinating as of late is all the new hats that you have sitting around a CMO's table. They all have different budgets, objectives, KPIs, and hopefully all ladder up to a through line strategy. In the past, there was clearly defined swim lanes across these teams, so to speak. But what steps is 7-Eleven taking to approach marketing holistically so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing?
Yeah, that is probably one of the hardest parts of the job. So when I joined the company a couple of years ago, we restructured the organization to be organized by discipline of marketing. So we've got teams that are focused on brand strategy, advertising and media, on in-store marketing, on digital and content marketing, insights and analytics, and corporate communications. But it's not enough and that's because we are working to develop specialization and expertise in those areas. We need those capabilities in order to build competitive advantage and really build our brands to achieve the aspirations that we have for them. But that's not enough. We also have to be the best collaborators, the most agile marketers in order to, frankly, keep pace with the business and with our customer. And so we work really hard at developing, tuning the collaboration processes that we need to have inside our department, so across our teams, as well as with our cross-functional partners, to ensure that everyone has enough of a finger on the pulse to understand what's happening across the business and can calibrate and adjust their discrete areas accordingly. And so that we have those handoffs really well grooved so that we can move quickly, we can react as business needs change, and ultimately just create a really holistic 360 program that drives the business. So I would say that's probably an area of our team where we are constantly working to improve. And you might be tempted to go down a path of just process improvement. And while I would tell you that's important, we have found that it's equally as important to define a really strong culture and to do the good work on building our culture so that we trust each other, we understand each other in terms of our communication styles and approaches. There's a lot of empathy built into how we partner together. And I mean, I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm just going to say it, we kind of love each other on the team. There's a lot of love for each other on this team and respect and admiration for the work that each team is doing. So that makes it a lot easier to just pick up the phone or shoot a text or stop by someone's desk or ring them up on Teams or Zoom when you've got a question, you need to, make a change, you have a different point of view that you want to share. Makes it easier to collaborate and move quickly. And so the process piece is important, but probably the cultural piece is as important. And recognizing that cultural impact, that leadership is a key part of how we work together on the marketing team. So we have all sorts of recognition and programs in place that help do that so that people know that they're making a difference, they're making an impact, and the what and the how are equally important.
That's such a great answer. I think that even more important these days, as these swim lanes get more and more blurred, you have the emergence of things like Center of Excellence team and retail media networks. Speaking of, I know that 7-Eleven is venturing into the retail media network space. I'm sure there's much more to be announced at a later date, but can you kind of give us a teaser and what 7-Eleven has in store within kind of riding that retail media network wave that I'm sure is going to be a hot topic throughout the course of the day?
That's right. Yeah, well, of course. I mean, we've talked about it here today that our vision, our corporate vision is to deliver anytime, anywhere convenience. And with the sizable first party transaction as well as loyalty data that we have, we're able to understand what our customers are looking for, what their needs are, as well as what message is going to resonate with them at what point in time, through which channel, et cetera. And so we're applying those capabilities to a new retail media network. And it'll be the first of its kind in the convenience industry, and one that we are just super excited to partner with so many of our vendor partners as advertisers moving forward. We believe we'll be able to deliver a really great return on their investment in advertising with our retail media network. And it's a big market, like you said. So we think it's high time that we entered that marketplace. And so a lot more to come soon. Hopefully we can do another panel in the future about that once it's in the marketplace and we're seeing some results.
Yeah, I love that. Super exciting, especially to be the first kind of C-store organization to lead the charge there in the retail media network space, and obviously near and dear to my team's heart at the trade desk, working closely with retailers on how best to utilize that first party data. Let's see here if we have enough time here. I think we have about 8 minutes or so for some questions. First one up here is, what channels have you found to be most successful in your marketing mix?
Well, this probably won't surprise anyone, but we have seen video to just be hugely impactful, both efficiency and effectiveness from a media perspective, and in particular in social. So we have been and will continue to move a lot of our creative assets and investment into video assets as we move forward. Aside from that, it kind of depends on the purpose of the objective of the campaign and what we're trying to achieve. We evaluate the success of a channel based on what the objective is. And so if it's an efficiency, then one channel might be more effective. If it's effectiveness, then another channel might be more effective. We try and balance all of those together to get to, a holistic definition of success. But I think just one in particular that's really been, a rising star this year has been the impact of video across multiple channels, in particular paid social.
How do you account for all the new specialties and skill sets when building out your marketing organization? It feels like every day there's a new expertise or subject matter expert or discipline to account for as you're building out, your team structure in hopes that it's balanced and set up for success. How do you look at those new specialties and those new skill sets?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we have leaders on the team who are responsible for different disciplines within marketing. And part of their job is to understand what are the skills and experiences that they need of the people on their team to have in order to be successful. We don't need everyone to know everything, which is why it's important for us to have a balance of specialists on the team across different disciplines, as well as more of an attitude of collaboration, curiosity about the business, willingness to learn and understand how to work cross-functionally and really how your role fits into the broader organization. So this idea of what I like to describe as systems thinking, someone can have a systems thinking approach and understand, when I do this impacts that group, this group, and ultimately the customer, then that helps solve for some of the friction that you tend to find if you're looking for just specialists. So we need specialists who know their kind of functional area and also can operate with a systems mindset and have just a passion for the business.
That's great. I think we have enough for about 2 more here. So one that's come up in terms of your multicultural consumers, can you speak a little bit about how you're addressing those consumers moving into 2022?
Absolutely. Yeah, this year we sort of I wouldn't say experimented, but we dipped our toe in the water. And you see that if you look at our campaign visually through the casting that we deployed, through the scenarios and situations that we showed. But I think moving forward, we're ready to take it to the next step and really explore more, I hesitate to use the word authentic, but more authentic ways to connect with our multicultural consumers. And so one area where we're starting to do that is with one of our restaurant brands called Laredo Taco Company. It's a brand out of South Texas that's well known in South Texas for breakfast tacos and all sorts of authentic Mexican food. We're expanding that brand in the US in several different markets. And so one of the ways that we're going to be doing that expansion is through a really focused multicultural marketing strategy. So you'll see it with certain brands, but also when we think about brand 7-Eleven, brand 7-Eleven serves so many different types of customers, whether it's ethnic, LGBTQ, life stage, background. I mean, you name it. We have a diverse array of customers, and we're constantly trying to think of new ways to serve them. So you'll see that hopefully improve and become even more as we move into the next year.
That's great, and I do think that authenticity piece is very important. I think that this generation, especially those that are come from different diverse backgrounds, really can sniff out when a brand is not being genuine in the space. Yeah. And it sounds like you're definitely taking that into account. Last question for you: are there any new trends or technology that holds untapped potential, or that you want to learn more about for 2022?
I have a long list, actually. My team would probably strangle me if I started to go down the list, but we are really curious about culture and about, consumers, obviously, but we're constantly trying to learn what's out there, and not just what's out there, but what's out there that could be appropriate for the brand and appropriate for the brand in service to our customers. So for example, NFTs is a great topic right now. We're in the process of exploring NFTs and trying to determine, is this something that we could develop for the 7-Eleven brand, but for what purpose? Mm-hmm. What is it going to do that will make the lives of our customers better? Because we know how important it is to kind of connect that and to ultimately make it hopefully platformable. So I think that's the trick. There's so many cool things in the marketplace. That's part of why I love being a marketer, is it's such a dynamic industry. But the trick is evaluating those new emerging trends or ideas or marketing tools and techniques through the lens of your brand and in service to your customer, your consumer. So we take a pretty methodical approach before we jump into anything. And NFTs are the most recent one that we're hotly debating on the team right now.
Yeah, that's definitely a great approach, and that you don't necessarily want to be chasing the shiny new toy if it's not what your customers want. Right. Doing due diligence before you go too far in or lean too far in is certainly important. So, Marissa, I can't thank you enough for your time today. Super insightful. I hope that everyone that joined us got as much out of it as I did. Best of luck. Sounds like you have lots of exciting new news for this year and lots to come going into next. And I have no doubt that under your leadership, there's big things to come and lots of success to come. So thanks again, and hope to do another one of these with you sometime in the future.
Awesome. Angel, thank you so much. I've appreciated the time, and hope everyone has an awesome holiday. Enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Marissa, this was great. Angel, this was great. We'll definitely schedule a part two. It sounds like there'll be lots more to talk about next year. And again, a lot of what you're saying is so on point with what we're hearing from our community, just in specifics and in broad strokes. The emphasis on culture externally and internally, right, is just not maintaining that cultural relevance with your consumer and what keeps you on the forefront, but also it directly plays into loyalty, right? How can you be that brand that you feel like you're a part of their lives, right? Brands are culture in a lot of respects. So, but then of course what you guys were talking about, that balance of process and process-driven operations to that cultural element. Can you just text, hey, can I get some quick? It's invaluable. And we've got a very family-friendly team here at Brand Innovators, yep. So I certainly can relate. And of course, the media network we're excited to hear about. So thank you so much, Marissa, Angel. That was phenomenal. Lots of chats coming through. Everybody's loving this talk. So I'm hopeful that we've got more to come. And with awesome. That, I wish you both a wonderful, happy, and healthy holiday season.
You too, David. Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Awesome. I know Patrick will be joining in just a second. Patrick Mclean, the CMO of Walgreens, and Brenda Tuhog, the SVP of Data Partnerships at Trade Desk. So we'll just wait for them to join in a second. But like Marissa was just saying, I mean, this is another topic that we ended off with this conversation around NFTs and the metaverse. Definitely a big one. You've seen it all over the trades. We've covered it. The Ad Age, Adweek, Digiday, they're all covering NFTs in the metaverse. Every tech website is covering it. And it's the same question that Marissa raised, balancing that, shiny object syndrome versus the investigation into a new technology and a new opportunity to really develop something meaningful that can bolster the connection between the brand and their consumers. And how do you evaluate the technology and the potential there? So you're not just chasing that shiny object, but really looking at, well, what is the underlying technology? How does it play into that dynamic between us and the brand and the consumer? So I think we're going to see a lot of innovation, leveraging Web3 and blockchain, and tokens, but beyond just NFTs as one particular execution or manifestation of that technology, but really looking holistically at what that technology can do in its own right, not just with NFTs, but with other elements. And of course, you've got loads of virtual goods and metaverse components there. You've seen brands that, I think it was Nike that's opening up a world in Roblox. You have concerts that take place in virtual worlds as well. So I think we're going to see a lot, maybe we'll see a 7-Eleven pop up in a Fortnite or a Roblox, right? Like the opportunities are endless. But what Marissa was saying and what a lot of our leaders, talk about is really identifying that true core value proposition that makes it worth it to invest the time and the resources into these new opportunities. And I'm really excited to see what our marketer community does in this space next year. And with that, it looks like we've got Patrick and Brenda joining us today. How you doing, Patrick?
I'm doing great. How are you, David?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. We just wrapped an amazing conversation with Marissa Jarrett, the CMO of 7-Eleven, and we are super excited to have you here today. Brenda, welcome to our virtual stage. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you.
Well, that is great to hear. It's my pleasure now to turn the virtual stage over to you guys. I will be back in a little bit when it's time to wrap. And just a reminder for everyone out there here on Zoom and on YouTube, please submit your questions and we'll do our best to get to as many of them as possible at the end of the chat. So take it away, Brenda.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I was able to catch the tail end of that last one. It was a great conversation. So we'll try and do the same here. So thanks everyone for joining. Patrick, great to see you again. Great to have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about your perspective on things right now and the future of retail. So with that, I guess we'll jump right in. So we have a limited amount of time. So I would love for you, well, first of all, why don't I introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. I work at the Trade Desk. I run our partnerships team. We spend a lot of time working with retail partners such as Walgreens and others. And I'm really excited to be here to have this conversation today. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Patrick, to hear a little bit more about you, how long you've been at Walgreens, where your focus is. And I think everyone's burning question especially is, how has it been working at Walgreens during the pandemic, since it's, obviously been pretty central to your organization?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Brenda. And great to be with everybody this morning. And thanks for the opportunity to share some of our story. So I'm Pat Mclean. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Walgreens. And I've been here for just over 2 years. And to your question, what an amazing, bizarre, intense, I don't know what adjectives to use, what an amazing 2 years it's been. First of all, it's been a great honor and privilege to steward the brand through everything that we've been through the pandemic. It's just been an amazing experience just looking back on it all. And probably most recently, just the intense experience of trying to be a big part of the solution to get the country vaccinated. We're right around 50 million shots in arms. So you think about that, and it's such an astonishing number. And, it's still going. There's just so many additional dynamics at play here with the booster shots, obviously accelerating. We've got, younger kids now able to get vaccinated. So the beat goes on, and just the incredible operational excellence that I think Walgreens has demonstrated throughout this, and just the heroism of our pharmacists and our pharmacy technicians and all the people who are have really been on the front lines of this. It's just been amazing to be a part of it. Just from a marketing perspective, you know, the Walgreens brand has just really shone through this. You know, we've probably haven't been this relevant, if I'm being honest, in a long time. And all of a sudden, you know, the brands and the pharmacists and the role that we play in the communities across America, you know, has really been remarkable. And so I'm extremely proud of the company and extremely proud of all of our team members. They're the real heroes. But it's been intense and just lots of changing landscape and different parts of the country behaving differently. And so it's been just a great marketing challenge and a great communications challenge to just try to reach people where they are in their own personal decision about whether to get vaccinated, whether they get their kids vaccinated. So it's really been an opportunity of a lifetime as a marketer, just to be in the middle of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you joined right at the perfect time to ride that, you know, ride this opportunity, if you want to call it that, or, you know, sort of like really take the company on a journey here. And from all of us as consumers, just want to thank you and your broad team for everything you're doing to really help out there. So that's exciting. So jumping in a little bit, since we're here to talk about predictions for retail, why don't we shift a little bit to just hearing from you on what are some of the big bets that you really would suggest retailers start thinking about today that they are placing or that they, you know, imminently should be placing to really drive the business going forward?
Well, you know, maybe it's obvious, but I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is really just the omni-channel dynamic that has really accelerated throughout the pandemic. You know, many of us, all of us, were impacted in one way, shape, or form as the consumer behavior just, you know, the digital's been a, you know, part of in the mix and a part of the equation for a long time, but all of a sudden overnight, it just became so important. And I think from the Walgreens perspective, you know, we were very arguably and admittedly behind in all of those capabilities in all those areas. And, you know, we tried to act really, really quickly to accelerate things like buy online, pick up in store, and, you know, delivery in under 2 hours, and just meeting customers and patients where they were in terms of their expectations. And that's going to continue. That's going to be with us indefinitely. And I think the landscape's changed forever. And so continued investments and finding the right balance between, you know, the digital experience, the physical experience, how they come together. I just think we've all, as an industry, we've got a long way to go. And certainly Walgreens has a long way to go. And then the second thing I'd probably highlight is just, you know, we're headed into, I think, a next phase of marketing excellence in the retail business, and the power of first-party data and the power of having a deep level of engagement with your customers is just absolutely crucial. You know, we're very fortunate to have a very large customer base, a very engaged customer base, and more we're continuing to find ways to use that data in a responsible way to improve the experience that customers have, improve the efficiency of our communication, you know, and in our case, using it as a way of helping to improve health outcomes for people, and you know, just continue to be a part of everyone's personal health journey as you know, everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are all pretty big, massive trends that we're seeing. What would you say from the marketer perspective? You talked a little bit about you know, the journey you've been going on and some of the new things at your disposal and how things have changed forever. Is there anything as the marketer that comes to mind there, such as you mentioned first party data? How is that really something that, you know, you guys at Walgreens are pretty fortunate, like you said, in having a big loyalty base there? What would you recommend for retailers who are maybe just thinking about getting started?
Absolutely. One of the biggest assets we have is, you know, we made a really bold move about just over a year ago to introduce My Walgreens, which was a reimagined loyalty program, but was also a reimagined customer experience for our customers, because we did have this goal, you know, we call it mass personalization, which is on the scale in which we're operating, but still trying to get, you know, a really relevant and personalized experience for customers. And so that move, I mean, we now have 95 million plus people in the My Walgreens platform and in the experience. And what we've done really effectively, and it gives us a tremendous amount of insight into our customers, into their behavior, specifically on our platform. But we've also made really big and bold investments in third-party data. And so we built this thing that we call the Walgreens Identity Network, which is taking our first-party data and connecting it to all available third-party data assets. And so it becomes a vehicle for us to gain really, really deep insights at an individual level, whether you're a Walgreens customer or not. And we've started to really activate on that data. And the vast majority of the marketing activity that we have now is driven by the insight that's taken from that data. And I tell you, just from a math perspective, the impact on business performance has been really, really positive. And we continue to, measure like crazy, and we just continue to be disciplined about finding new ways to reach our customers, gain efficiency, and then continue to scale those opportunities as they come up. And it's been a powerful unlock for us. And it's also been a great way for us to, as I mentioned, just improve the experience that customers have with Walgreens so that it's relevant and it's more and more useful, especially from a health and well-being perspective. So it's been an incredible journey, and we're going really fast, but we're able to unlock a lot of value along the way. So it's been great.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are really on the cutting edge and doing it right with data. As the data partnerships lead here at the Trade Desk, I'm a big believer in using that data to better really gain insights and refine your strategies along the way. So that speaks to me for sure. So those are some great opportunities and sort of wind at your back. But if we kind of flip it the other way, what would you say potentially are some of the bigger challenges that you or other retailers in general are facing? What are some of the headwinds that you're working on addressing?
Well, one of them is certainly creating this balance between the physical, retail location and e-commerce and digital engagement. I mean, we have 9,000 locations across the country, and that's an incredible asset for us. But people are expecting not just the physical presence, but the complementary digital presence. And when you're a legacy retailer like us, there's just a lot of challenges in trying to create that connectivity. And so it just requires a lot of disciplined investment and the right investments. And then also, just looking at the network, and, the last thing we want to do is start closing stores. But, obviously it's a dynamic that we've got to recognize that if more and more customer engagement is moving digitally, what is the evolving role of the store? And, in our case, we're a very services oriented business. We also have the, front of store retail business, but the pharmacy, is very much a service business. And, the role that the pharmacists play in people's lives is significant. And that has historically been a very physical interaction in the pharmacy. And so I think that will still continue, but, we also need to find other ways for the pharmacy expertise and the pharmacist to be present in people's lives in those digital channels. And I think throughout retail, there's probably many, many examples of exactly the same thing, where it's like, you've got this expertise and you've got this capability that lives in the physical presence. And how do you create, a synergy between how that lives in digital and how it lives in the physical? And what's the right balance of investment in the two? So I think that's a real open question for retail in general. And I think it's something that we continue to look at as a headwind as we try to figure out, like, what does Walgreens of the future really look like?
That's really interesting. And I think you're right. I think all retailers are looking at various like channel shifts, right, throughout their business and trying to balance that. And I think what's interesting about where you guys sit in the ecosystem is, you can't get those booster shots over the internet. So there is always going to be that need for that physical relationship with Walgreens. And so that is an interesting dynamic that you're in a fairly unique position to have to wrangle and understand.
Definitely. If we could figure out a way to vaccinate people in the metaverse, then we'd definitely do it, but we're not there yet. So
Not
maybe
yet.
someday.
Not yet. Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that, yeah, as we're seeing, just so much dynamic as a result, particularly the pandemic, just accelerating so much of the migration to digital is just fascinating to be part of. So the other big trend, I think I caught the tail end of the last discussion, and I think you can't really open the paper in our industry without reading about is retail media networks. We'd just love to better understand your plans, such as you could share. Obviously, you've been out already pretty publicly with what you're doing, but I think importantly also is really helping talk to some of the brands who might be listening about what is it that you would recommend they start thinking about doing differently today than maybe they were doing yesterday in terms of engaging with retailers as it relates to these networks.
Well, the opportunity is massive. And I think that's why retail media networks have become really top of mind for people. And, as I described sort of our journey on unlocking the opportunity with our first party data, and the great thing about our model is that we can actually close the loop, right? We know that, somebody was exposed to some marketing activity, and we know what they did on the transaction level at the store level. And so, we're very privileged and lucky to have one of the largest first party data stores. And so the idea behind Walgreens Advertising Group, which is our retail media network, is that brands can access the capability that we built for ourselves through the Walgreens Advertising Group. And so, if you're a media leader and you're trying to figure out the right, balance of investment, and you've got an opportunity to reach, call it almost 100 million people, and know with a high degree of certainty the performance of that media execution, you're going to put some dollars there and you're going to test it. And then if it works, you're going to start scaling it. And that's what we're seeing with Walgreens Advertising Group. There's just been a tremendous amount of demand. And, our specific offering there, which we think is exceptionally powerful, is we don't just offer that in terms of accessing media on our owned properties like Walgreens.com or in our app, et cetera, but we actually offer the access off our premise. So we actually, in partnership with our customers, we're actually activating in digital channels, leveraging the power of our first party data. And the results that we've seen on behalf of those customers are, just as compelling as the ones that we see for ourselves. And so it's a great opportunity, for us. Clearly, it's an alternate revenue stream to further monetize the investments that we're making here. But also, all ships will rise as a result, right? Because CPG partners will sell more product, and we'll have a much more efficient and better ROI on their media spend. And then also for us, that sale is going to wind up in a Walgreens. So it's just such a powerful way for us to unlock even more value. And we've just been at it for a year. We were probably slow to market relative to some of the players who have been in the market for a while. But I would say our offering is really resonating in the market. And at the moment we're at a point where we're trying to scale it as quickly as possible to keep up with all the demand we're seeing. So really big opportunity for us ahead, and big opportunity for all of our supplier partners and our pharma partners as well, because obviously we sit in between that front of store retail and pharma world, and we're very conscious of all of the privacy laws and all of the transparency that we want to have with our customers. But I think there really is a value exchange there at the end of the day, with customers and patients, with the retailer and with the supplier partner who's trying to get more targeted and better ROI for their dollars.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we see the same, just, the tide is rising really in this part of the ecosystem in terms of the partners we work with, the demand for data like yours, the demand for measurement, optimizations in campaigns to really just create the most effective and efficient campaigns. And for the consumer, that value exchange is so important, and making sure that the ads they're seeing are relevant. And obviously all under the umbrella of very privacy safe, anonymized approach there. As brands are thinking about, so one of the things I think I hear a lot about is sort of like how brands are thinking about shopper dollars versus national dollars, and how to think about that convergence now that a lot of the digital activations start to bleed more similar to a national buy than historical shopper engagements. How are you engaging on that, or how are you seeing those shifts happen? And
yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I think our approach has been really to engage in the dialogue with the supplier community around what the new capability is that we're introducing, and what a powerful opportunity it is. Historically, retailers like us would have had the classic print circular in every Sunday paper, across the country, and we had a relationship with suppliers on that particular property. And we made the decision well over a year ago to discontinue that, because we saw so much opportunity on our mass personalization and our Walgreens advertising group side. And so there's definitely a transition there from, I'll call it the more traditional way that shopper dollars have flowed. I think we are seeing a little bit of a shift to this more modern approach to reaching customers as a result of the higher degree of certainty that it's paying back. But I also think we're really tapping into, call it the media dollars in addition to that. And so the worlds are converging a little bit, where you've got, the head of media at a CPG provider being compelled to shift dollars into the Walgreens advertising group or the retail media landscape in general, because it's a more efficient part of that spend. And then you're also seeing, the supplier partners who drive the shopper dollars also looking to, get a better ROI out of the investment that they're making with retailers. So I think it's really important. My advice is to, just have dialogue in both worlds, right? So, stay close to the merchant organization and make sure that they're bringing in, the media network opportunity, and then speak directly with the media opportunity and bring your media, if you're a supplier lead for a retailer, bring your media person into the meeting, right? And if you're a media person, bring your retail partner in. So I just think that, the conversation needs to converge a little bit so that everybody's on the same page about the role that shopper dollars play and the role that media dollars play, and what's the right combination of activity across that spend.
Yeah, it's exactly the conversations we're seeing happen also, and that convergence is happening. But there's still probably, there's a lot of unwinding of what's traditionally been done in order to really take full advantage of what's now available. And it's just moving so quickly. So there's just so many new ways to spend those dollars more efficiently. And so that's really an exciting landscape. I am going to take a couple questions.
Sure.
So I see a couple coming in here, but please feel free to post more if you have them. So real quick, one of the questions is, in what ways has Walgreens modified marketing strategies to meet the challenge of different community behaviors across the country?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've just learned a ton through the experience of the vaccine and just communicating and marketing around the vaccine. Very much an exercise of using all the data assets that I described and trying to extract as much insight as possible about what's happening in different parts of the country, right? And you've got places still where there's still high demand for vaccine and people are getting boosters as soon as they're eligible and all that. And then you've still got parts of the country that are lagging even in the first dose of vaccine. And you've got different reasons for people to be hesitant, right? I mean, it's a very personal decision for people to whether or not to get vaccinated. And so, we've done a lot of insight work on trying to cluster, like-minded people in like-minded parts of the country, and tailored and targeted our communication outreach and our marketing outreach to those communities based on a number of different variables. How we, think about, are you in an underserved part of the community? And that, underserved community is going to have different dynamics than if you're in a, a wealthy community, or if you're in a different part of the country. So it's a real challenge, and it really goes back to sort of the first part of your question, which is, how have we changed our strategy? I mean, our strategy has gone very much from a, one message to all, to very much this mass personalization approach, where to the extent that I can uniquely tailor my marketing to you as an individual, I'm going to do that. And, that for us has been just a massive shift in our strategy and a massive shift in our approach. And so I would say just fundamentally we've changed. And that has impacted every part of my organization, and in a lot of ways has changed the company, because the approach that we take is very, very different than how it has been traditionally. And that's been because of this strategy shift to this mass personalization agenda.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And that mass personalization, there's so many emerging and existing technologies to help with that. Have you found anything specific that's been really effective? So I know like dynamic creative, I mean, I live in the digital world clearly, so dynamic creative optimization is an exciting initiative or way to do that more personalized delivery of messaging.
Yeah, all of that. I mean, we've got some great examples of using AI, in even like things like our email subject lines, right? And dynamic creative is definitely, we're continuing to experiment with that. I think also, we've had to make some really big investments in our data platforms. We moved all of our data assets to the cloud in partnership with Microsoft. And, we're at the, call it close to final stages of implementing the Adobe marketing technology stack. And what those things allow us to do is operate at the scale in which we're operating, first of all. But then second of all, it allows us to orchestrate across channels, right? So there was sort of this first phase of this where we would experiment like in the email channel, and how can we get even better in the email channel, and how can we experiment with, dynamic creative, how can we experiment with AI to, generate, copy variations and all of those things. But then once you get into the world of Adobe, you're able to orchestrate not just in a single channel, but across all of our channels. And so that's the next, opportunity for us to unlock is, I think we've done a good job leveraging some of the technology you described, and we're just now orienting our organization to, leverage the Adobe technology, and then our data is in a really good place now. And so, our data science team is getting more sophisticated. And so all that is going to work, I think, to unlock another phase of this, which is, an even more personalized experience, but not just in channel, throughout the entire ecosystem of your experience with Walgreens.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And it leads me to think about how many different parts of the organization marketing touches now. So you're talking about technology, you're talking about data science. And so it's just such a much more sophisticated practice. I think we might have time for one more question if we're quick. What steps is Walgreens taking to future-proof personalized marketing at scale? Especially with the deprecation of the third party imminent?
Yeah, the key for us is protecting and engaging the customers we have. So, we're in a very unique position because we've got the 95, close to 100 million identity records, and we want to grow that. So, I mean, that's really the future-proof strategy here. If we have a compelling offering for customers and patients, and if we can truly get to this place where we personalized the experience, particularly in the context of health and wellness, because that's what we do, that's what we have permission to do, and it's never been more in the consciousness of individuals. Just think about your own personal experience, and wellness has now become core to what you need to do for yourself. And so if we can improve that experience, and if our value proposition is there, it will absolutely, in my mind, retain, further engage, and then grow the customer base that we have. And then you become, the privacy landscape and the cookie landscape and all that almost becomes irrelevant, because, you've got such a large customer base, and you can attract, people who are like that customer base in unique and compelling ways. And, and then again, like I said, extend that into other parts of the, ecosystem, back into the supply chain, supplier partners. And, it all becomes one big customer engagement engine is what we call it. And if you can create it and sustain it and keep it relevant, I mean, that for us is our differentiation opportunity.
Yeah. And that's such a hot topic for us too at the trade desk, as you may know, with really helping to endorse, an internet currency that is privacy safe, and really just elevate how we really support the fabric of targeting and measurement through an open sourced identity exchange under UID2, which is something that we're sponsoring as an open currency that everyone can plug into. And those are the kinds of things I think that just make that really respect the customer's privacy, really helps better protect that value exchange we talked about earlier. But really, I agree with you. It really does start with that first party data first and foremost. And first party data really, and having that conversation with your consumer isn't new as much as it is now. There's just so many ways to do it better. And really do it in a way that the customer understands, and has an opportunity to opt in and opt out of the different things they want to be talked to about. So I think that's really, really important too. I did realize I thought we were ending 3 minutes ago, so we've got a few more minutes, which is great. So that means we can get to a couple more questions here. Let's see. You had mentioned Microsoft and Adobe. I'm not sure how we didn't clear this one, but so you can defer if you want to, but I'm not sure someone's interested in knowing more about some of the partners you're using to help you in your data matching and in some of your retail media network practices. Is there anything there that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, we have, we have a great partnership with WPP. They've been our agency that has been on our journey with this Walgreens identity network that I sort of described earlier. But we also use some of the solutions that the Publicis Group has. So the Epsilon Conversant solution has been very powerful for us and continues to be. They're one of our key partners on the on the Walgreens advertising group. And so, those are a couple of examples. We've got great internal capability as well. I think we've got such a terrific relationship with our CIO, Francesco Tinto, who's exceptional. And so we've also been sure to create our own capability. I mentioned sort of the data science operation, and just our whole data organization is really come a long way in the last couple of years, and we'll continue to invest there. And then, as we mentioned, Adobe, groups like yourself, the trade desk, and and other, probably most of the brand names in the data space we work with on some level. So, I mean, we're certainly not. We're relatively agnostic in terms of technology and partners that we use, because we realize that it's a broad ecosystem, and you've got to make sure that you're plugging in directly with many partners. I will also say that maybe as a complementary point to that is we've also had great success with sort of direct connects with some of the media partners, right? I would specifically call out our relationship with Google, where I think we're doing some really world-class work in responsibly combining data assets so that we can get the power of the Google data set, the Walgreens data set, and make it even more relevant when customers are on the Google platform. And so we're looking to do more and more of those types of things where we're direct connects with many of the media partners, and certainly the biggest ones that we work with. We're focused on doing that, and when we've done that, we've also seen significant unlock. And so, I would just encourage brands out there to just continue to push the envelope, right? Like this, the democratization of data in a responsible way, I think it's really a differentiator for retailers like us, that have significant customer bases and are operating at scale. And just, keep looking for those partnerships and those ways, to access a broader ecosystem. And my experience has been that the more, combination of data sources, again, done responsibly, the more powerful it can become. And so I think we're all striving for that, as you mentioned earlier, Brenda.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And that's typically what we'll talk to customers and clients about too, is it's really not a one size fit all. And there's so many different opportunities to test and learn as you go. And so really leveraging all different types of data and different types of activations is really the best way to go at it. And really seeing what works for your brand and what resonates with your clients and your customers. So fully on board with that. One thing I sped past, but maybe interesting to the people listening, is just understanding a little bit more about your organization and how you've evolved that and how that's changed in light of all these trends that we've been talking about.
Yeah, it's been a big part of what we've had to do. And we're certainly not done, but definitely some new types of teams have emerged, right? So as soon as you get into the marketing technology world, you really need to bring in people who know that space and are experts in that space. So that whole group has really been a new unlock for us, but also just the whole training and change curve for people as we adopt these new technologies. So, you got to create this almost center of excellence that is extremely knowledgeable and are practitioners in marketing technology and data, but also they play an important role on educating and making sure that the broader organization is set up for success in this new world. I would also say massive expansion in the media space and in our customer relationship management space, our loyalty team, all of those teams that do the much more direct and precision type marketing. Those teams have really expanded and we've really invested in those and we'll continue to do that. The other thing that we've done is we've completely transformed our internal agency that we call The Loop. And so The Loop is undergoing a massive transformation as well, and really going from this place where, designing signage in the store and basic, banner ads and things like that to like a full-on content studio, right? And if you look back over the last year and a half, you would have seen us do a lot more video content and a lot more content, just generally speaking, both to educate people around COVID and around the vaccine. And, it's been just a real sort of step change in the way that we're developing content. And we'll continue to grow that part of the organization because we see content as key to this mass personalization journey we're on. So it's really been there's a lot of new groups that have been stood up as I described. And then there's also groups that have had to transform themselves. And then of course the Walgreens advertising group is new. So we've been scaling that organization and bringing a lot of folks into the organization. And you gave me a great opportunity now to do a recruiting call.
Yeah.
So we have
recruiting.
we have a ton of open roles and lots of really exciting ones in this new space. And so please check out all of our job postings, and we'd love to speak to you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a good one. I know that getting those right people with that kind of expertise is definitely a big priority for a lot of companies. So I'm going to end us on a fun note. So kind of a fun question for you as we wrap up. What do you predict will be the hottest gift of the season, this holiday season, as we're heading into it?
So my prediction is, this whole metaverse world, I think is just poised to explode. And so, I think anything that's in that space, I have a 14-year-old son and I watch him with his Oculus. I watch him with, in these immersive worlds and in the gaming space. He's sort of right in the sweet spot for all of that. And I just think all of that category is just going to be super hot this holiday season. And then of course that also then sort of goes into peripherals, right? So, anything, sort of headsets and, second screens and, that whole space, I think is just going to be really hot this holiday. And, we'll see how the supply chain holds up and all of this, right? So, I mean, that's the biggest challenge. I mean, just, the joke about trying to get a PS5 and all this stuff, right? I mean, this is the world we're in now, is that these technologies that enable immersion, I think are really a place to look in the holiday season and then well beyond. And I think those will be the hot items.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the conversation, the time, great insights. So thank you.
I love it. This was fantastic, Brenda, Patrick, as always. Great to see you here. I can't wait to see you in person next year. And this was fantastic. I agree. I mean, we were just talking about metaverse stuff with Marissa as well. Definitely one of the hottest topics, both for marketers and for consumers. I don't know how I got a PS5. I had signed up for like all of these Twitter alert accounts that all they do is alert you when they get in stock somewhere. And like, the first 150 times but even within those 10 seconds, you miss it. But somehow I got lucky. But maybe I'll put it on eBay and, put that money towards my mortgage or something. I don't know.
There you go.
You can get a pretty penny for those these days. But no, thank you so much, Patrick. Brenda, again, fantastic. And we hope to have you both again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Brenda.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We are going to keep the show rolling with our next dynamic duo. We have Doug Zarkin, Vice President and CMO at Pearl Vision, and our moderator, Patrick Albano, the GM of Client Development for the Trade Desk. So let's welcome our next speakers. I'll give a virtual round of applause, a metaverse round of applause for Doug and Patrick. Maybe this time next year, we'll all be doing these events with Oculus headsets on, but, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Welcome, Doug. Welcome, Patrick. I know you guys have a lot to chat about, but it's great seeing both of you here. And I'll turn the virtual stage over to you, Patrick, if you want to kind of kick things off and do some intros, and I'll pop back in about 40 minutes or so.
Sounds good. Thanks, David.
All right.
Hey, everyone. Thank you all for joining. My name is Patrick Albano, and as David mentioned, I'm a GM of Client Development at the Trade Desk, and excited to speak with Doug today. Doug, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
Do you want to open up with a quick intro and tell the audience sort of your background, what you do at Pearl, and also maybe how the business has fared over the past couple of years?
Sure. So for the last 10 years, I have been the Chief Marketing Officer at Pearl Vision, which is one of the brands under the EssilOil portfolio. My career really began in the agency world, moved to the client side. I'm one of the few men that you'll ever meet that actually could say proudly that he was an Avon lady. When I was at Avon, bopped around in the world of fashion and beauty. I was the head of marketing for Victoria's Secret Pink, taking that business nationally. And then, as I mentioned, joined Pearl Vision in 2012. How are we doing? We're actually doing extremely well. The resiliency of our category, our brand, and most importantly, our licensed operators has us poised for a fantastic 2021, coming off of a really strong recovery in 2020, not only from a top line and a profitability perspective, but any business that's a franchise business like ours, it's about growth. And we're opening up a record number of eye care centers this year, thanks in large part to our incredible licensing and development team.
Very nice. Great. Love the Avon lady shout out. So I was a CMO for a little while, and one of the questions I always got asked, I'm going to ask you, which is, could you just tell us what a CMO does? Maybe a pie chart of the day in the life or a week in the life of Doug?
So a day in the life and a week in the life is probably pretty boring to go through. What I'll say is that each and every day, the opportunity to impact this brand is prevalent. And that's frankly why I stayed for the last 10 years. In any business, you have decisions that are easy to make, and most importantly, decisions that are critical to make. The difficult decisions are the ones that come when you're not educated. And so I think I spend a disproportionate amount of time trying to educate myself, not just on the category, but most importantly on the consumer. Operating from a perspective of hiding behind a spreadsheet is not the way that I've chosen to lead marketing or lead the businesses that I've been a part of. It's really about getting out into the community, seeing how our eye care centers are doing, watching and observing. You know, the power of observation is incredibly important. So I probably spend 50 to 60% of my time really focused on the consumer and what's going on at the individual brand level. You know, the remaining time that I have from a work perspective, it's really just trying to stay current with, you know, the ever-changing world, both off and online. You know, whether it's the folks in the linear world fighting about Nielsen versus ComScore, or in the digital world dealing with algorithm changes in iOS 14 and 15. It's never the same day twice. I think most importantly, what I try to do is to provide my team the opportunity to make a difference. And, you know, that's not about what your title is. That's honestly about your passion, your ability to really get into the business, understand it, and then feel obligated to bring your best thinking to bear every single day.
That's great. I love the idea of spending time watching the consumer. How do you do that? Is that literally you going into stores? Do you do it unannounced so that you get the true kind of like associate action that you want to see?
It's a lot less creepy in the eye care category than when I was in beauty or intimate apparel. That's for sure. I will say that I've been kicked out of a fair number of Macy's and Bloomingdale's over the course of my career. But in our business, it's really just watching, going into our eye care centers, talking to our licensed owners, the power of observation, watching somebody go through the journey from the exam room to the retail floor, and then most importantly, coming out with their perfect pair. In a franchise system, you are always given the opportunity to get feedback. And I think leading through listening is an incredibly important skill to apply in any business, especially one like ours. So, you know, I made a calculated mistake my first year on the business, which is I gave out my personal cell number to every single owner on the business. And, you know, the first couple of years, that phone was ringing, you know, Saturday mornings while I was coaching my son's lacrosse team. But now it's random calls about how to optimize. What do you think? Hey, I have a new competitor. And it really just allows me to stay grounded in our business, not just in the New York area where I live, but most importantly, you know, around the United States and beyond.
Nice. Well, if you want to share your mobile phone in the chat here, I'm sure a lot of the folks here would have marketing questions for you too.
I'll pass.
One of the things that I think is interesting about your business is kind of the difference between the way you've approached the category and sure. Some of the more e-commerce driven or direct-to-consumer businesses. But I'd love to hear your take on that and why Pearl Vision is different.
So, you know, if you go back to the vision of our founder, Dr. Stanley Pearl, you know, his premise was the notion of a best-in-class doctor with an unmatched commitment to care from the exam room to the retail floor. Nothing in his vision said, buy one, get one free at heavy discounting. Nothing in his vision talked about the fact that you think you can earn trust by giving product away. Trust is something that is earned through a series of small moments of care. Discounts, big deals garner favor, they don't earn trust. And so we have chosen to build our business based on the quality of care that we deliver. Why? Quite frankly, as a business that's a healthcare services business that sells in reality a medical device, why should we accept 40 or 50% less for our services when we don't have to? And the way you don't have to is by strengthening the brand value equation. And so we have chosen to really drive up the experience in order to command a premium price. Because, you know, we're dealing with medical professionals, we're dealing with state-of-the-art lenses and the best assortment of frames money can buy. Putting a frame on your face, it's architecture. I mean, balancing and fitting, no one's face is perfectly symmetrical. So that has to be custom fit. Lenses, the millimeter is the difference between seeing clearly and having a massive headache. So with all of that need for preciseness and personalization, why would I want to give away 2 pairs for $69? It makes no sense. So in 2013, we began restoring the pride in Pearl Vision. We began restoring the power of our commitment to care. You know, this brand has always stood for care, but much like when you buy a house that's been poorly decorated, you know, we had to strip a lot of bad wallpaper off the wall and get back to the foundation of this business, which was that intense commitment to caring about the people behind the eyes. And over the last 10 years, we've been able to restore the power of Pearl, the pride in Pearl, and most importantly, the quality of care that Pearl Vision is perceived to provide. And that's why, you know, we were just recently named by the Women's Choice Awards, the #1 optical retail brand as preferred by women, something we're incredibly proud of.
Yeah, I saw that. Congrats on that. So that's great. Segue into predictions, and that's the theme of the day. I'm curious to hear some of a little more background on some of the predictions you've made, and one in particular. So over the course of the past couple of years, I think from staring at a screen all day, my eyes started to go and get blurry. I'm not going to admit it's because of age. It's probably because of the computer. So I went into your local store on 7th Ave, and I thought the COVID protocol was great. Everything was all about scheduled appointments and putting the glasses in places that they were allowed to be cleaned. How are you feeling people will come back to retail next year, and sort of what are you most concerned about? What are you most excited about in terms of 2022?
Well, they've already come back this year, and they came back at the end of last year. I mean, our second half last year, from a patient acquisition perspective, we delivered more exams in the second half of last year than we delivered in the history of the business. Patients want to be cared for. Telemedicine isn't going away, and it's a fine alternative for some things, but people crave personal attention. I think the challenge that all businesses face that are brick and mortar is you have the great resignation, which is happening across all industries, not just marketing, not just advertising, but in all industries are facing a shortage of labor, despite the fact that unemployment is what it is. There is a plethora of really good jobs, but in our case, an optician needs to be trained. It's not selling a movie ticket. It involves investing in time, and unfortunately, those are not easy people to find. And when you make an investment and someone decides to leave, it's painful. So I know consumers are coming back. The success of our business proves it. The challenge will become, how do we provide that amazing patient experience from the exam room to the retail floor, faced with potential limited occupancy, faced again with potential reversion back to some of the COVID protocols? And the answer is very simple: carefully. We have to be extremely careful about what we promise, and most importantly, what we communicate. When we went from everyday care to essential care at the height of the COVID pandemic last year, we actually communicated out in the communities in which we have our eye care centers: listen, unless you are a frontline worker, or you have trauma, or you've broken your glasses, or you've run out of contacts, please don't come to us right now. Which was incredibly bold. But when you have spent the amount of time we have in trying to earn trust, at some point, you have to take marbles out of that trust jar and believe that that consumer is going to be there for you. And they did, and they came back. Once we opened back our doors and opened up our exam books, we were flooded with patients seeking quality of care. And I think for us, we just have to be very careful and very transparent with our consumers when we have issues with scheduling exams. We want to make sure that we're updating our patient scheduler online. We want to make sure that when it comes to promising when your perfect pair is being delivered, that we're being incredibly transparent. We commit to somewhere between 7 and 14 days. We try to get it done in less time. But if you promise 7 to 14 and you deliver 21, you have a problem. If you promise 7 to 14 and you deliver 7, you've delivered an amazing experience. So we have to be humble and recognize that there are certain things facing our business, like all other businesses, that require us to be incredibly transparent with the consumer. Consumers want to embrace brick and mortar again. They're craving personal connection. And I think the best thing to happen to brick and mortar was the fact that people in the pandemic, while they were e-com shopping, longed to be able to go back to a restaurant and eat, right? Longed to be able to see their favorite sales associate at their favorite boutique to help them find that perfect dress or that perfect outfit. And so the power of human truth, the power of people, is not gone. I think it's stronger than ever. Brands are just struggling, all brands, to find the staffing to be able to keep up with it.
And do you think that that the expectation will be, there's a consumer understanding that it may be tough to find the right people? Because I'm sure you've had this experience too. I've gone to stores, restaurants, the product's not there. And so it's frustrating, but then you also try to understand, like, do you think consumers understand that right now? Are you trying to communicate in that in any way, that things have changed a little bit?
So the good news is I think this is not a small business problem. This is not a big business problem. This is a business problem. The supply chain is impacting businesses big or small. Anybody who's done any home renovation, I think it took me 7 months to get my new refrigerator, which was crazy. The impact, I think, is requiring businesses to be more transparent about what they can't do than ever before. Nobody likes to talk about their failures. not as leaders, not as marketers. And businesses don't like to be able to say to a consumer, I can't. But by being transparent, what you actually do is earn trust. People are willing to understand and be patient, provided, quite frankly, that you don't bullshit them. The more transparent you are about what you can deliver and when you can deliver it, the stronger the relationship between you and that person at the other end of the register actually becomes. It's when brands aren't transparent, promise 3-day and deliver 7. And that goes from Amazon to, Annie's House of Optical. That's when you lose trust, and that's when you really create, tension between your customer base and your brand.
Yeah, it's and especially you've talked about this in a world where reviews drive so much of a consumer decision, and a bad review can completely change someone's perception of your business. How do you make sure that the staff really understands that? And is it through training, or you're calling them on their cell phones?
So we live in a feedback culture, not just as marketers but as consumers. And unfortunately, the bulk of feedback is very polarized. You very rarely get a mediocre review. You either get an amazing review or you get a devastating review. The reality is that perception may not reflect reality, but it absolutely reflects a truth. And more as we evolve out of the pandemic, there's the dimension that I would call intentionality, where people who want to go into brick and mortar are planning with much more purpose when they're going to go. For those of us like myself that are working from home, being able to sneak out on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock to go get my teeth cleaned or to go see the eye doctor is possible. That may not have been possible a year ago. So you have to be mindful that consumers are going to research you and make those decisions based in large part on what they're reading. Brands cannot scrub their reviews. If you look at any business and they're 5-star across the board and they don't have a single negative review, somebody should call shenanigans, because every business is going to have an opportunity to disappoint. Okay. The old adage was the consumer is always right. That's not the case. The consumer sometimes can be unreasonable. We've all interacted with businesses where the business has been unreasonable, but we have to ask ourselves, as a consumer, have we ever been unreasonable? And the answer is yes. The challenge is that unreasonableness now gets magnified because somebody puts a review on Google My Business page. And so you have to be mindful of that reputation narrative. And fortunately, we've partnered with a company called Reputation to help us manage our online narrative. It allows us the opportunity to click into every one of our eye care centers and look at the reviews and understand where trend exists. A bad review is not cause for alarm. A series of bad reviews is cause for alarm. And it's really about volume. If you have 10 reviews only, chances are 1 or 2 people are going to be disappointed. And just simple laws of math, if 2 out of 10 give you a 2 out of 5, you could have 5s across the board. What's that going to do to your average? So we have been doing a lot of communicating with our franchisees, with our corporate employees, about not only soliciting reviews, but most importantly, responding. Because there is nothing more than taking an adversary and turning them into an advocate, because you have showed empathy and you have tried to make it right. Doesn't mean that we've done it, doesn't mean that you're going to be happy, but the attempt to acknowledge that we have an obligation to at least try is something that brands like ours need to get credit for. And the best way to do it is to be responsive to what people are saying to us online.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Does that ever affect the way that you then either create marketing content or copy? Because it tells you a little about what consumers thinking about you.
So, what I would say is that if you're not angering somebody, you're probably not doing something right. I remember one of the early pieces of creative that I developed had a same-sex couple in the commercial. And wow, I got some very colorful letters from people about it. I did another spot where I did an interracial couple, and boy, did I get some letters. But that stuff is not going to stop me from doing what's right, from doing what's reflective of today's culture. And I think for us, we are mindful of it, but we certainly aren't going to be swayed by 1 or 2 people's perspective, especially those that are ill-informed about what we should or shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, love that. All right, let's talk about some more predictions. So a couple of questions that came in, one through LinkedIn, and it's been a hot topic throughout all of the panel sessions today. from Ali Dib was the question about the metaverse, and I've heard different angles on this today. But I think there's a broader story here, which is about consumers kind of owning the internet versus companies owning the internet. And while I don't, if you've had a thought about whether there'll be a Pearl Vision in a virtual world one day, I mean, that'd be interesting. But it also curious how the thought process. So when I say that and you hear it and you read it, how do you process through, like, is this something I want to spend time on, or do I want to devote my team's effort to this?
Sure. So I operate from the philosophy that FOMO isn't a marketing strategy. Okay. If you look at the dearth of apps that exist on the App Store, I'd say 80% of them are completely useless and shouldn't exist. And the majority of those were created by brands and businesses because they were afraid if they didn't have an app that they were going to get left behind. Innovation really begins with the letters I and N, which in my mind stands for insight. We're going to pursue opportunities to support growing our brand based on insight. Insight doesn't just come from quantitative data, it comes from qualitative data. So because somebody is doing something doesn't mean that you should. And for us, we have to ask ourselves humbly, what do we have the right to do? I could create an app tomorrow, but does a consumer who's coming to me once every 14 months for an annual eye exam and an updated prescription and a perfect pair really want to have a Pearl Vision app on their phone? Probably not. Probably not. The same way that a consumer doesn't want to get an email a week from me. Humility has to be part of every successful brand strategy. So with some of the things that are going on in the world of crypto and NFTs, certainly you're not going to ignore them. But for us, to me, in order to pursue anything, I have to understand what is the insight. You know, what is the reason to believe that this is something that is going to be accretive? Does it fall in the must do, the need to do, the could do, the should do's, or the want to do's? And as you get lower in the funnel to the must and the needs, look, we've made incredible progress driving our brand health, but we certainly haven't reached perfection. And so we are laser-like focused on the must and the needs. We're exploring some of the coulds and the shoulds, and we're keeping an idea on the wants. And I would say some of that stuff probably falls into perhaps the wants, not necessarily the must, the needs, the coulds, or the woulds.
Is there anything in 2022 that's moving into the must and the need category? Is there a new channel or a new technology or something that you're excited that you're doing?
So, one of the really exciting pieces of innovation that we've brought into our eye care center is our digital fit technology. As I mentioned, a millimeter of fit is the difference between seeing clearly and having a massive headache. And there's something called a PD measurement, where if you've ever gotten glasses, you put the glasses on, and in the old school way, the optician would take a Sharpie and put a dot on the lens to measure where your pupil really sits in the lens. And that really gets into lens construction. We have taken it to a whole new level with our digital fit technology that allows us to get incredibly precise. That's going to allow us to make that perfect pair even more perfect. It should reduce remakes because of an improper lens construction. But I think most importantly for the consumer, what they're seeing is the use of technology to create a more personalized, intimate experience with our associates, not a replacement for our associates. The second thing I think that we're incredibly excited about is continuing to explore the US Hispanic market. 40% of Hispanic kids have an undiagnosed vision issue versus 25% of general population. And to us, as a brand that cares about the people behind the eyes, when we look at the searches on Google for those that have identified as US Hispanics, when we look at the volume financially that exists in that market, and then we look at who's actually talking to those consumers in a respectful way in the language that they prefer. Some prefer English, some prefer Spanish. We see a golden opportunity, and we've actually piloted a US Hispanic outreach program this year, and it's delivering gangbusters for us. So we're excited about double clicking into the US Hispanic market in 2022 as our eye care center footprint really allows us to take full advantage of where that population is concentrated. The last thing that I think we're thrilled about is updating our Microsite platform. Part of the advantage of joining Pearl Vision is obviously the resources that it provides the owner. And so we have a website for each and every eye care center across the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico that carries our name. We've been in the process of updating the look of that, the functionality, the searchability to be reflective of a premium brand that we are. We recently launched our OD pages. We will be launching within the next, I think, 3 weeks, the overall retail microsite refresh. And I think that's going to really help create the right message to the consumer who's searching for an elevated level of care in their community, that we're their answer and their solution for them and their entire family.
That sounds like a pretty big technical project.
It's interesting. Let's put it that way.
All right. But I know that, I mean, it's along the theme of personalization, which we think about a lot at the Trade Desk. It was a big topic on the last panel. And I think it's interesting how you think about it as well, because you've got personalization in store as well as digitally. One of the questions that came through in the chat was from Dave Dembowski: how will AI drive marketing and advertising opportunity for Pearl as a wearable brand?
Yeah, I see Dave's question. I don't know if I should answer it because he spelled Pearl wrong, but I will because it's a good day. So we're obviously using the power of technology to help enhance the return on ad spend in a number of different ways. Whether that's in the way in which we do our segmentation, obviously the way we're using our first party data and creating cohorts that allow us to go out and communicate with people that really resonate with what we're saying. Because we are not a brand for everybody. If you believe that you should buy your eyeglasses at the same place you buy your groceries, Pearl Vision is probably not the place for you. So it's about searching and finding those of like mind and ensuring that we're in their consideration set. I think that's probably the most effective way that we can use AI, is to help us be smarter about who we're talking to. We know who we want to talk to. Finding them is the challenge.
And it must have changed a lot. Like, you have an interesting purview because you've been there for 10 years. 10 years ago, that was sort of maybe a direct mail, a little bit of digital. Now you can do that in TV and lots of other places. I'm curious to get your take on how do you think about being precision marketing and maybe trying to find the right people and more broad-based marketing.
Here's the bad news. Direct mail is back, folks. And it's our fault as marketers. We double clicked into the efficiency of email, and now people have more junk email than they know what to do with. And what's happening is they're just trashing it. People went away from snail mail because of the below the line cost implications. And as a result, consumers are getting less and less mail in their mailboxes. So, in a recent study that we did in terms of a return on investment in our CRM platform, we are seeing record levels of return on investment in direct mail. So, they always say what's old is new again, and that's not necessarily just true in fashion. I think what you're going to see is a harken back, perhaps maybe as far back as 10 years ago, in terms of how to build an effective marketing plan. Linear television is not dead. TV is not dead. Shitty television is dead, much like Amazon didn't kill brick and mortar retail. Amazon killed shitty retail. It has required brands, from a content perspective, from a messaging perspective, to step up their game. So email is absolutely not dead, but you have to be choiceful and humble about what you want to say and when you want to say it. And it's the same thing with your marketing stack. We are finding that consumers are benefiting from a layered message. It's not a one dimension fits all platform. You can't just run digital display or PPC and be successful, because your effectiveness when you show up on page 1 of Google is directly correlated to what people think of your brand. And pay-per-click is not where you tell a story. Video is still the most effective way to tell a story. So we're certainly going to avail ourselves of all the technologies that exist, but we're also going to be cognizant of the human factor and thinking human about how consumers make decisions. And for us, consumers make emotional decisions before they make rational choices. They need to fall in love with you emotionally, or believe that you are the place they should trust before they make that rational choice to schedule an exam Thursday at 3. So emotional storytelling will remain at the core of what powers Pearl. And I'm really confident with the resources that we have in place that we're going to continue to be able to resonate both at a national and a local level.
Yeah, you've got the Small Moments campaign, which is a video-based platform, right? And it's kind of intended to do that exact same thing. How do you? I can imagine though, as I see all the different channels and streaming services that are going on in my house, how do you think about like producing enough content to continue to connect with people, be relevant? I mean, that's got to be a bit of a challenge, right?
So, look, again, I go back to the humility point. I know what my marketing budgets are relative to my competition. And I also know that there is something to be said for consistency. And consistency isn't about matching luggage. It's about having the same voice, the same principles, the same ideals, and reflecting that in everything that you do. We're of the mind that we should do less, but do it better. We've made significant investments in creating strong content. Maya, which is our execution that's running right now, the latest installment in the Small Moments campaign, really was about getting into the mindset of, in this case, a teenager who's looking to fit in. And we were able to celebrate the fact that one of our eye care experts was able to help her feel good about herself, to bring out what makes her special, what makes her different, what makes her unique. And that's an incredibly powerful message. And we've built around that with extensions. But we want to be careful that we're not, sort of spraying and praying. We want to make sure that when we do something that we do it right, and that most importantly, we get credit for it in the mind of the consumer. And so to do that, you have to look at your investment approach very carefully, especially because it's not my money, it's our franchisees' money. So I want to be very careful in ensuring that we're not over-investing in below the line, which is, code word for the cost to make stuff, and spending too little and actually getting it out there. Strategy without great execution is nothing more than words on paper. And it's the same thing for content. There is no such thing as organic content anymore. It's pay for play in every vehicle. And that's disappointing, but that's a reality. So we want to be very careful and cautious about doing things that are meaningful, because we don't take the trust that we've earned lightly at all.
Yeah, and I know in franchisee-driven businesses too, you got to make sure your franchisees see the ads, and they need to make sure that their money is getting used wisely.
Yeah, I love the text message. It's not a bad thing when you give out your cell phone when you get a text message that somebody saw your ad on the Grammys or on the Monday Night Football game. I love those messages, and fortunately, with our great buying team, we're able to get those high quality placements.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about predictions for 2022, and you've got some interesting ones. I'll definitely put direct mail one of at the top of the list for good predictions for next year. I wanted to go ahead even further though, and take a chance to see let's say we were sitting here at Brand Innovators 2025, and you were looking back, and the question was, what was the most important thing you did in 2022 to improve your business? What do you think you would say?
I honestly think I would say, and it goes to mentality, the decision to remain humble. And I say that because, we have achieved some really impressive business results, top line and bottom line growth. But most importantly, what we have been able to achieve is earning the trust of our owners and operators. And so you could take the successive run of our business and proceed with an hubris that perhaps would allow you to make some pretty big decisions. The decision that I'm leading when it comes to the marketing of this business is about consistency. It took us 10 years to be atop the optical retail category. It took us 10 years to restore the power of Pearl Vision. And you can lose that very, very quickly if you take your eye off of what's most important. The decision to remain humble, and most importantly, the decision to think human, I think is a critical one that we're making that is going to benefit us in the next 5 years. And thinking human applies to innovation. It applies to embracing new technologies, both in frame and lens. It also talks about how we approach our marketing stack. We have to be careful about an over-reliance on technology without an understanding of insight. Looking past if it looks too good and smells too good, it probably is too good. We have to be skeptical in order to ensure that the decisions that we're making are good ones. There are a number of others that I think, we've made over the last couple of years that 5 years out are going to pay off tremendously. But I think really remaining humble, despite our success, and I think remaining grounded in the notion of thinking human are two critical anchor points that I think are going to allow us to be successful for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think that sums up a lot of what you've been saying about what you're doing in store and how you're thinking about post-COVID or the current return to retail. Because I do think that's going to be a big theme. Like, we all really stripped a lot off over the past couple of years, and now We're looking for companies to be more human.
Yeah.
So there's another question, Alex Leiter, how do you consider new purchase-based data sets to inform your audience segmentation and omni-channel targeting strategies?
I think I have to go back to grad school to understand the question. I think that's about, I'm going to assume that is about list acquisition, perhaps.
Yeah, and let me tie it to another one of the big themes today, which is retail media.
Sure.
So I think in the retail media world, where we heard Walgreens earlier, just talking about retail media. There's all these ability to now understand people who purchase glasses or purchase other products and target those people online. So I think this is kind of, are you thinking about those new ways of targeting people? Because it's even deeper than it ever has been now that we're tied to retail sales.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mentioned before about our progression in the U.S. Hispanic market. Share of market grab is really the name of the game. Bringing in incrementality is the name of the game. And for us, we're going after certain audiences, provided that it's based on an insight. The U.S. Hispanic market was based on an insight. It was based on the degree of insurance that they have. It was based on the prevalence of vision issues that aren't being addressed. It was based on, the 20 million Google searches a year by people that have self-identified as U.S. Hispanic, where there's not a single optical brand that's appearing on page one. Those are smart ventures into audience growth. We're not going to create an audience for the sake of creating an audience. What we really want to try to figure out is, with the humility that is required in a very, very competitive category, who is best served by what we have to offer. You're not going to win the fast food game by being a brand that has built its business on selling fried chicken and then all of a sudden decides to add pizza to its menu. That's not a winning strategy. And in our business, we are not going to step way outside our comfort zone and try to be something that we're not. That is an unbelievably important decision to make in terms of staying true to what your brand vision and mission is in order to drive growth. We're opening up new eye care centers to serve more of the community. We're breaking down barriers to provide access to and care. We're bringing innovation to ensure that perfect pair is more perfect than ever before. And we're making available to communities where we have eye care centers simply the best in class, both in frames and lenses. That's really living up to the obligation of our founder, Dr. Stanley Pearl. And I think allows us to feel very, very good about going forward into the next decade.
That's great. All right, we have 2 minutes left. I wanted to, I think in the audience, there's probably a lot of marketers and a lot of salespeople. If we could use the 2 minutes, maybe a minute on advice you'd give to a marketer in 2022, if they want to get into your chair one day, and then salespeople who are trying to sell to you, advice you'd give to them to be better, be different in 2022.
Sure. So if you're looking to get into a chair like mine, don't go into finance. The money's better. I think for marketers, realize that marketing now more than ever, despite what you may read, is truly about a balance of art and science. Don't lose the fact that data doesn't make decisions for the modern day marketer. Data is a tool in the toolbox that helps the modern day marketer to make decisions. It doesn't do it for you. What I would say to anybody from a sales perspective that's on the phone is, don't double park at the intersection of dumb and stupid. Approaching a marketing leader with the solicitation that tells you what you're doing wrong is a no-win scenario. Why? Because marketers by nature have to have a bit of arrogance. We at our core are tasked with getting into the mindset of a consumer and motivating them to take the action we want them to do when we want them to do that. That is incredibly arrogant. And so, somewhat based on pride, somewhat based on the fact that if you're looking to offer your services, I'm assuming you think that we have a pretty good idea of what we're doing in order to add value to it. You don't add value to our business at a prospect level by telling us all the things that we're doing wrong. You can tell us about the things that you can bring. You can tell us about the opportunities that you think exist, but starting your subject line with "you're missing out on 10 million patients" or "you're leaving $500,000 on the table," there's no possible way you know that. And all that does is honestly just put you right into the circular file box, and you're not going to get a response.
It's kind of like if you had your ad creative talking about how a consumer was doing something bad, like you want to always keep it positive, right? And about the value that you can offer. Accretive
is the way to go. Show how you're going to add value, how you're going to make us grow even faster and fuel even stronger growth. You don't do that by telling us all the things we're doing wrong, especially because there's just no way you could possibly know until you've actually talked to us and worked here.
Amazing. Doug, awesome to talk to you.
Thank you.
I also love that you're keeping physical memorabilia alive. It's not all NFTs right now. That stuff matters.
Exactly.
Every one of these items is a moment that's pretty special.
Love that.
I love it, and really, in particular, Doug, the what we were talking about FOMO. I mean, we're at the end of the year, whether it's NFTs or metaverse or a million other shiny objects. I mean, we've been talking about this with our council meetings, our speakers earlier today. Having that sort of process to really evaluate these technologies or platforms or whatever it is, to say, is this going to drive a business impact for us, or are we just going to chase a shiny object because we feel like we're obligated to? To your point about the apps, right? Like I was, on the agency side in those days, and that was it. Every client, hey, we need an app, and it was like, wait, do you? Or to quote, I think it's Jurassic Park. They were so busy thinking about whether they could, they didn't stop to think about whether they should, right? Like, yeah. So that's kind of what we're at. And again, we're about to kick off the new year, and I know some of these topics are really big for our community. So really appreciate your insight here, Patrick. Fantastic job. Hope to have you both again soon.
Thanks, guys. Stay healthy. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I love it. All right, we're going to keep the show rolling. We have 2 more fantastic sessions. So we're going to bring up our next speaker. We have Dre Madden, the Chief Marketing Officer at Underground Cellar. And we have Ellen Mulryan, the Senior Director of Retail Data Partnerships at the Trade Desk. So let's bring up Ellen and Dre. And again, for those with us here on Zoom and on YouTube, we will be ending out the day with our friend Joe Rago from Ulta Beauty. So make sure you stick around for him as well. Yes, will the entire recording, it looks like we got a question, will the entire recording be available for viewing? Yes. We have a very robust YouTube channel where it may take 48 hours, 72 hours, but typically all of these videos are spliced out into their individual fireside chats. They are posted to our YouTube channel, and then we also have an on-demand section of our website that you can check out for all of the archived videos as well. So it should be, yes, viewable for your on-demand viewing pleasure. And with that, Dre, welcome. Ellen, welcome. We are super excited to have you both. I'm really excited to learn about Underground Cellar and hear your thoughts. I know as an industry veteran, we're really excited to hear your insights into what we can expect for the world of retail and commerce going into 2022. So Ellen, the virtual stage is yours. I'll be back in about 35, 40 minutes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am Ellen Mulryan, like David said. I'm from the Trade Desk, and I'm really excited to be here today with Dre Madden, the CMO of Underground Cellar. Dre brings over 15 years of experience in managing and operating e-commerce, marketplace, subscription businesses for both high-growth startups and well-established brands, and I can't wait for her to share more with you about her experience and her retail predictions for 2022. So Dre, welcome.
Hi, how are you guys? Hope all is well.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit the other day, and you were mentioning that you've held 2 interim CMO positions during this pandemic before coming to Underground Cellar. Can you share a little bit more about those companies and how they thrived during such a challenging time?
Yeah, gosh, about 1.5 years ago, I was introduced to a great company called Community Wellness, and they had a vision right when COVID had began to really help seniors avoid the doctor's offices. And it was in the beginning where we as a little bit younger than seniors are more adept to doing virtual telehealth. But to that audience, it's very foreign. And so we made it really easy. And we created a whole telehealth platform that made it easy for seniors to take their blood pressure, check their oxygen levels. We provided a variety of products that we sent home. And then we provided a virtual telehealth total network where you can connect with doctors and get health visits. And it all stemmed up right in the middle of just being not as much opportunistic, but really being value-based for the senior audience to try and get them a much safer way and it was very scary for seniors at the time to be going into a doctor's office. And then shortly thereafter, I got this opportunity to actually go start again from scratch. Well, not totally from scratch. There was an airline that is a semi-private travel airline, a jet company that was based in San Francisco, but operating out of Europe. And what we did was we wanted to bring it to the United States and launch it in the US. And it's a really different market. So I got to do the whole go-to-market and launch Aero, which everybody should check out. They fly. It's a phenomenal semi-private jet experience where you don't actually have to rent out the entire jet, but you could rent out your own seat. And so you could have a spot and have the great opportunity of going straight to the gate, a private gate, go right into the FBO and right onto the plane. And that was also very fantastic during this COVID world where people were trying to avoid regular travel and TSA overall. And that was a great experience. And the company is just kicking off now in many new cities. I launched 5 cities that Aero is going to and a new FBO. And now the company is off to the races. So you probably see them all over the news because there's a lot of celebrities taking their flights as well at the moment.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. It sounds like both of those companies really were disruptors in this space. And my guess is that, as you move to underground cellar, that was also a theme as you kind of took that role on. I know you've been there for a few months now. I'm curious what brought you to the company.
What brought me to the company, so as you can see, this was actually my screensaver well before I was at Underground Cellar. I'm a huge wine fan. I have a big cellar myself and just love the art and joy of wine. And when I got introduced to Underground Cellar, they're doing something very unique and different. They're really driving a lot. What we're doing is we're bringing an opportunity for wine lovers to get access and discover wines that they wouldn't have been able to try in the past. Based on our relationships with a lot of the wineries, we put together these beautiful collections of wine, and you buy in at the lowest price, and then we upgrade you to bigger and better bottles based on and so we're rewarding customers based on the relationships that we've set up. So it's a very cool gamified way to buy wine. It's very unique and disruptive, and we're getting some great response from consumers, and it's been growing quite fast and furious over the last several years. But even in the last 2 years, it's been fantastic. And so they just wanted to expand, and we're looking for a marketing leadership at this point, and I'm so excited about it. It's been a fun, wild ride so far, and we're just getting going. So. But I love taking on new challenges of stuff that hasn't been done before. I mean, StubHub was super disruptive when I got there. It was only 20 of us, and we were trying to establish a marketplace for tickets. And this is establishing a world where you don't have to buy. We have sommeliers that are literally tasting every bottle and choosing them and putting them to collections. So we can make wine really accessible and discover great for all, and kind of take the scare out of buying wines and expose people to new stuff. So yeah.
I'm a huge wine fan, so I'm going to have to try it.
You definitely should.
Yeah. And then next, a CMO's role has definitely evolved over the last few years, especially with the rise of digital tools and technology. I'm curious how you've seen digital marketing tools drive growth for companies you've worked with.
Yeah, so it just depends on the stage of the company, the resources that you have internally. In the variety of companies that I've been at in the past, I've come in where there's been marketing tech stack already there, and we have to evaluate if we keep it or if we advance. Because as marketing leaders, we're always getting hit upon by different vendors. So many a day. So there's always new cool tech to evaluate. And I love getting nitty gritty with technology. But when you come into new companies, as I have in the last few years, it's looking at what the company needs at that moment in time. And so for me, like literally the setup of the last few startups has been, do we have the right email service provider? Do we have a CMS so that I can have a lot of flexibility on the website to change and not have to go to dev every time we need to change? Do we have an A/B testing platform that we can use? How advanced do we need to get on our analytics and our attribution methodology? And it goes on and on. And so it really, to me, it very much depends on what scale of the company we're at and what we can handle. It's not always the biggest and the best that's going to actually work. And sometimes the biggest and the best is really hard to implement. And it takes an implementation team, a second, like another resource to come in. So it has to do with how advanced you need to get and understanding how fast you need to scale to get there.
Right. Yeah, that resonates so much with me. I mean, I feel like technology decisions have to be based on actual use cases or business challenges, or else they just sit on the shelf costing a lot of money.
I know. Or people don't know how to use them.
Right.
Or it could be one person that came in and set it up and then they're gone. So I try and find like not the lowest level car, but the mid-range, just teetering on the high range car. Like if I was to associate brands.
Yes.
But I don't always go for the highest end Mercedes or Porsche.
Understandable. You can rent those ones for vacation. Right? So you kind of touched on a few, but are there any big watch outs in this space that you would share with another company looking to maybe up their tech stack?
Oh, goodness. I think there's a lot to be learned from going into not assuming that if you sign on for one, like everything's going to connect. Because that seems to be a misnomer sometimes. And you often need a technical integrations team to really figure out what connects with what. So often when I'm bringing on new technology, I look at what's the core fundamental technology that we need to hook into. What are our core channels that we need to make sure work first and foremost, and what technologies can work immediately with easy integration and what require a little bit more. So I tend to dig a little bit deeper on the integration topic than most, just because I've had, and then there's always Salesforce, which at Rodan and Fields we used and integrated 5 different clouds into one just to make sure that everything worked properly. So depends on the size of the company, depends on how fast you need to scale, but I think integration is the scary one where you have to figure out how it's all going to work together.
That makes sense. And it sounds like people is a theme here as well as something companies need to really focus on. Throughout your career, you focused on scaling marketing departments within the companies that you've worked for. And I'm curious, what are some common themes you see in those successful marketing teams?
Yeah, so whenever I join a company, I kind of assess really like first off aptitude. Like what's my team, who can do what, and rarely do I, as I grew up in marketing and really respect my my CMO at the time at StubHub, was I kept getting more and more responsibilities because I was able to take on more. And so I always just look to the existing team to say, okay, who can do more and do they want to, as a first and foremost. And then deciding really if you need subject matter experts in certain channels, or if you can go with agencies to scale quickly. And if you have somebody to manage the agency, have they managed agencies before? Or do you need, or what kind of skill set do you need to be that manager of the agency? But there isn't this magic mix. I also will say, depending on the size of the company and even the company that you might start with, the size, as you grow, you're going to look to changing the resources as you scale. So I've had situations where I've start off with agencies and then I move them in-house. And then ones that I've started off with in-house and realized I needed an agency that can actually manage more and set up channels quicker and have it all in one place. So depending on if you have a strong BI team, you have really great analytics support. And then you also, you can do more internally. But if you don't, I'd have to use the agency for more and lean on them.
Awesome. Yeah, the recognition that you may have to change halfway through.
And that's okay, actually. I know it sounds scary, and sometimes it's not a slow decision, but it's a decision that you can work through and decide. Often when you're working with agencies, it just gets cost prohibitive, and you think about, can I hire those folks in-house, and will it work for me? But this market is very hard to find great folks, great marketing folks, as everybody knows, because we're all getting hit up quite a bit. So I would just know that as well, in order to make a decision on how quickly you scale. But I've had like my agencies in the past and currently are just great support. And some have been at my wedding, and I tend to want to build really strong relationships with folks because they're extensions of my team.
Right. And you have to trust them with a lot. And drive everyone's business forward. So do you have any recommendations for companies that are trying to hire in this challenging hiring marketplace right now?
Oh yeah, we're hiring. I need some great growth and retention folks. So if you're out there, call me. I would say it's always fantastic to have a recruiter that you trust and that can scale with you, or a team of recruiters, but sometimes that can be cost prohibitive. And it doesn't make sense for a lot of the levels if they're lower levels versus higher levels. So if you have lower level roles and you need to fill, it's helpful to have an in-house recruiter or some in-house support, because going through a lot of resumes is tedious and time consuming, and recruiters tend to help with that. And I know there's some automated systems too that can help, or even new startups that can help kind of make that move to a little bit of a hybrid. But I tend to mix it up, where if they're higher level roles, I would go with a recruiter, and then not necessarily it depends on what levels, and trying to get the recruiter that or the recruiters that actually focus on your particular niche.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, well, let's move on to a few questions then about Underground Cellar. So I did some research. Wine clubs have been around for quite some time. I think 1972 was when Wine of the Month Club was founded. But over the last few years, we've seen this vertical really explode, driven by a lot of really hyper-focused wine clubs. I'm curious, how does Underground Cellar stand out in this really increasingly busy space?
Yeah, so we're the benefits of a wine club without having to be a subscriber. So it's free to join. You could be a member, and then you hop in and you can have access to all of our offers. And our offers are every day. So we put numerous offers together, whether you're like a big Pinot fan or a Cults Cab fan, or you're a lover of champagne of the world, sparkling, I should say, of the world. We really cater to a wide variety of palates. And what we're trying to do is make it very accessible for you to come in and explore. And we have sommeliers on staff and we have great wine experts that are choosing the wines. And then we're gamifying it for you so that you get even better stuff than what you even thought you got. So the fun thing is going in and thinking that you have like 30 different bottles that you could choose from. And then we bump you up and you have the opportunity to get upgraded to a Magnum or a very expensive bottle, $500, $750 bottle. So there's this really cool surprise and delight that is very unique.
Right.
And the other unique part is that you don't have to buy every single time. But what we're seeing, not every time, but I'm a member of wine clubs too, but every couple of months, what you can do is get in and explore and just go with where you think your palate is going to be. And then we'll help you and we'll curate the wine collections for you. So it's all about customer service and a great customer experience for us. And we've got these fantastic wine guys in back of the computer just doing their business. So
love that. And so you've mentioned gamification a few times. What led Underground Cellar to decide to gamify this wine buying process?
So it started with our CEO. So back in the day, he was a card collector, basketball cards. And so it's kind of this concept where when you buy cards, you're actually going to buy, you don't know what's inside. It's this mystery. You think you know what you want to get. You kind of wish for what you want to get. And then you get it upgraded, you get surprised and delighted with these cool cards. And that's what we're doing with wine. And so the surprise and delight makes it really engaging for folks. And they come back pretty quickly after they bought their first purchase to buy again. So it really started off with this surprise and delight model and this mystery model. And it's been growing from there.
Awesome. And I think you had mentioned around how you were trying not to discount the product too.
Oh yeah. The real joy of Underground Cellar is that we are keeping the brands intact and not discounting the wineries at all for we're not slashing prices. So what we're able to do is set up really fantastic relationships with our wineries, because we're selling at their price, at their list price. So it builds this great relationship for the marketplace, right? Where our wineries and our wine sellers love us, and then our customers love us, and then we upgrade and reward. And you can see that with, we just got this article in Forbes 2 days ago that showcases a lot of what we've done with a couple of the wineries and showcasing our relationships with wineries overall. But it's been a really great relationship that we've been building, and we continue to build. We have a whole wine department, a wine relations department, that's continuing to add more and more wineries to our mix.
Very cool. Yeah, I can see why they would want to work with you. Especially if you guys are holding the value and quality.
Yeah, the value is we're not discounting whatsoever. And also the nicer thing is that we're not, because we're not doing a lot of discounting and sales, when we do put promotions together, they really work very well. But the true value is actually in the wines that we're providing, and how we're getting you access to all these different wines that you wouldn't have been able to access. The wineries open up their library to us. So we actually get library wines. We get wines that are not sold in stores. So we get a special access to unique vintages.
Very cool.
Even autographed wine. We've got this amazing stuff going on right now. If anybody goes to Underground Cellar, you'll see our scramble. It's during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then all of Cyber Week, and throughout the month of December, we have a game called Scramble, where every time you buy a bottle, you get a letter. And so then you go back and look at all the different prizes that we're offering. And we have access to wine with beautiful autograph signed bottles, to dinner with winemakers, to French Laundry dinner with our CEO. So there's lots of really cool things that we're offering to our customers that is a representation of the relationship we have with these wineries, that they're giving us all these prizes that we can redistribute.
Cool. Awesome. And then we know that a wide variety of businesses have emerged or evolved in the marketplace due to changes in, consumer behavior because of this pandemic. What are the biggest changes? I know you've been there just a few months, but what are the biggest changes or opportunities that Underground Cellar has seen in their business during this time?
Yeah, well, we've seen significant growth, but what we've seen, it's not necessarily people are interested in buying wine, but you would think that they're also interested in drinking it immediately, as you would think with COVID, and they are. Like, the beverage and consumption of wine and alcohol has gone off the roof, but they're interested in just buying and now starting to collect. And we have this really cool product called the Cloud Cellar. So when you buy wine from Underground Cellar, it goes directly into your Cloud Cellar. It's a cellar in Napa that we host your wine for you, and we host up to 500 bottles per person. So the nice thing is that people are buying and storing. So if you live in a place that you don't have enough room, we have this beautiful climate controlled environment where you can store your wines with us for free. So now you can have your own cellar. And so that's why we're seeing it take off, is that it's got it's a little bit of a twist, right? To just buying wine and having it sent to the house. Now, if you buy a case, once you have a case, we'll ship for free, and there's no issues with shipping, but it's nice to be able to offer free storage as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And everyone loves free shipping, don't they?
Yes, they do. That seems to be a theme with our predictions.
Yeah. And actually, let's jump into those predictions then. Wisconsin free shipping have often proven to be huge drivers of consumer purchase habits. How have brands you've worked on managed against this and still driven growth?
Yeah, so we are what I see as predictions for 2021 and 2022 are, some of them are largely around the environment that we're in right now. So even just a couple of days ago, we saw less traffic to the stores and more traffic to online because of some of the smash and grab. This is my prediction, but some of the smash and grabs that are going on, some of the news cycles that we're having, or even the fact that we have a new COVID variant that's entering the world. So I was out in Boston a couple of days ago visiting family, and I went out on Black Friday, and we found parking immediately, walked right into the stores, and it was not an issue at all. So it made me think like how, and then I was seeing all over the news that day that it was impacted. On our site, we've had incredible success over Black Friday, Cyber Monday. People are buying, and they're buying in quite a large amount. So it's not stopping people from buying, but it's just how they're buying. But also some things that I was thinking from a lot of the world is also along the lines of COVID. We have this microchip issue. So people are stocking up and prices are getting higher. And we have this supply chain issue where a lot of we're in a world where things are getting more expensive that they shouldn't. And so there's this demand, like we had demand for toilet paper back in the day, and the perceived demand that we're going to be out and we're not going to have the necessary items that really cause some strain and cause some increase in purchase in cost. But I also think that there's a feel good with going into 2022, and it started in 2020 and 2021, which is a lot of companies are moving to sustainability and really putting a lot more emphasis on sustainability right now. We saw that happen at Rodan & Fields. We changed all of our packaging to be more sustainable. And it really made a difference to the consumers. And we're starting to do more of that on the underground seller side with how we do packaging. But it's across the board where companies are being told by their consumers that they want less mail, they want less deliveries, they just want less to help the environment out. There's also, as I mentioned, with free shipping, there's also free returns. So how do we all think about when we're buying, we just assume as I think we're now getting more and more accustomed to being able to return, but we want it to be free returns, right? So and we've even seen some companies emerge and get big funding like Happy Returns, just to make returning much easier. So you can go in and drop off at your Nordstrom's or drop off at your UPS store. Really simplified return policy that makes consumers feel a lot more comfortable in buying.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a really interesting one that you're in the world of, that I managed at StubHub for a little while when I was doing ad sales, which is we've got new revenue streams coming out from retailers too. So it's not always about what you can buy, but actually there's media that's going on to these retailer sites to get more of a clear, to just build a targeting capability that now the retailers can sell their data and can actually have a way. And I know you'll probably talk about that a lot. And then the last one that I would bring up, I'm close to as well with my whole background, which is in resale. And this is something that Forrester brought up, but we are seeing, and this is not what we work on at Underground Seller, but we may one day go into this world of resale. But right now we're seeing resale pretty high up in the priority list for consumers, right? People want to buy used, and they want used nice products. And I saw that we had a whole resale market at StubHub that just flourished. So,
and it goes back to sustainability too, I'm sure.
Right, actually,
an aspect of our world today, and trying to manage against that. I'm sure those things are linked somehow.
They are indirectly. I don't know if you would necessarily put them together, but the rise of buying on Facebook, buying on Nextdoor, buying on eBay isn't the only place, obviously. And I did an internship at eBay way back in the day. I just got a trampoline off of somebody from Nextdoor for my kids for the holidays.
Wow.
And and it felt great. My kids didn't mind it at all. It was a really nice, expensive trampoline, but I wanted to get it resale because I felt like those hold their weight. So, yeah.
My mom loves the Facebook resale for all of her
Oh yeah.
stuff. You can only use the train table for so long. So why buy it? Awesome.
But sometimes you can make more when you buy something. It's like, I'm sure I will sell this trampoline probably for the same price that I bought it for, which is an amazing deal in itself. So
I haven't thought about that. It's like you can think about how you're investing.
Well, we all thought about that at StubHub. It's like buy and resell some tickets and keep some for yourself and make the difference in money so that you can, So we were all sellers back in the day in the beginning.
Interesting. Very cool. Okay, last question, and then we'll jump into some Q&A, I think. We know brands are really up against a ton right now as they work, to manage against changing consumer habits, the future cookieless world. What do you think is the most important thing brands and retail should be doing to future-proof their businesses?
Goodness, quite a lot, I would say. I think that one thing that I think we all got very excited with Facebook and and it was the ability to target and to hyper target and to build audiences and lookalike models and things that go right into people's phones and aren't just traditional ad buys, like a traditional display ad. That we began loving it and putting a lot of budget into Facebook. And I do love Facebook myself for all of the companies that I've been at in the past several years. But I would say the reliance on any one channel can be a little scary, right? If the tides change and there's more restrictions on audiences or more restrictions on security and privacy, anything can change. And we saw that great change even with iOS changes and with social as a whole. So my recommendation and what I am trying to do right now is just make sure that I look at my portfolio of media and advertising, just like a portfolio of investments, and not being all in the stock market, not being all in real estate, but rather having a variety. And it can be hard, but trying to find emerging new channels that can scale is going to be really important for everyone. And they might not be the most traditional channels, or they might be, and you just have to find that sweet nugget. Because you need to be flexible enough to be able to get in and out quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. No single points of failure, diversification of your strategies.
But it is very hard to do when you see money coming in from one channel. You get comfortable with it. So
totally. Yeah. And I know at Trade Desk, we're, as we think about diversification, and you mentioned earlier the retail component of new retailers' business now and being able to sell their data or do measurement against their data. That's a big initiative for the Trade Desk as we look to build those relationships so that, brands and advertisers can have that direct access to a variety of retailers to drive growth for their brands.
Yeah, you're in the predictions for my predictions for 2022 is like, how are retailers getting smarter and making use of a lot of their inventory, not just what their core asset is.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Well, I know we're getting towards the end. We'll leave a minute or two for questions, but finally, I'm sure there are other wine lovers like me and you listening. So I know you mentioned you have a code you wanted to share for any first-time Underground Cellar users. So
so if you would like to go and buy your first purchase, buy an offer on our site, there's some great Cyber Week specials right now. It is BI 2021. I see Ellen writing it down. BI 2021. If there's any issues with the code, let me know. Dre at Underground Cellar. I'm happy to make it work for you.
Awesome.
Oh, and the code, it's for $50 off a purchase of $100.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So enjoy. That'll get you a good discount.
Yeah. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, go ahead and send them in. The one question, what was the name of the charter company again? It was
Aero, AERO. really fantastic company that provides like a very cool user experience where you walk right onto the plane and have the jet is actually got an amazing sound system. It's got beautiful leather seats. It's only 15 passengers. So you can be one of the few that fly semi-private.
Very cool. The last question we had was, please put the code in the chat for you. I think you're going to have
2021.
Definitely.
Love a good discount code. Thank you so much, Dre. I appreciate, and I'm sure our community really appreciates your generosity, and congratulations on everything that you've been up to. This was really wonderful. So, I mean, I know you have to jump, Dre, and Ellen, this was wonderful. So thank you so much. I really hope that we can have you both again soon.
Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our last session, we are going to bring up Kendra Manzo, the Senior Director of Global Client Development at Trade Desk. As you guys know, Trade Desk has been our partner for the day. They're a leading independent technology company, and we are thrilled to have Kendra joining us. I will say, we did hear, unfortunately, that Joe had a bit of a family emergency. So Kendra and I are going to wrap things up. We got a few questions that we're going to get to, and I know that you are. This is your world, so we're gonna tap into your expertise on all things retail for a few minutes. I know that in your role, Kendra, that you focus primarily on beauty. And in the CPG vertical, and that this is a space that you're really passionate about. So I'd love to understand from you. I mean, I don't know if I missed anything in terms of your role, but what you're hearing from kind of the brands that you work with right now. Again, as their partner, what are those big questions? What are those big challenges or the opportunities that they're looking to you guys for guidance on going into next year?
Totally, and just to level set quickly, this is a really fast pivot. I'm surprised to be on the receiving end of questions, but I'm happy to be here. And it's a great question and a pretty straightforward one to answer because across the board. So CPG is where I've spent most of my career, especially at the Trade Desk. On my role now, I oversee a few of our largest strategic partnerships, especially globally. And what I will say across the board that every advertiser cares about more than anything is how do I tie my advertising dollars to sales? So that the first thing on the chopping block isn't my marketing budget.
Absolutely.
So I think that's sort of the main takeaway, and figuring out ways to connect those dots is something that has historically been missing from marketing and advertising dollars, of really understanding the impact of those dollars on sales and the bottom line.
Well, I love that. And as far as that's like a challenge, I would say. What about on the flip side? Are there any opportunities or areas of excitement that they kind of look to you for guidance on, whether it's, on the e-commerce side or in-store shopping or, again, virtual goods, which we've talked about a number of times today. Are there kind of opportunities that they're excited about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to that point, there has been such an expansion in terms of retailers opening up their very valuable first-party data sets to advertisers so that they can better understand the impacts that their omnichannel marketing dollars are having on sales, for instance, in a Walmart. I would say that across the board where we've seen the most excitement is around the Walmart DSP specifically, but there are also other retailers raising their hands who are interested in participating in a variety of different ways, whether it be in the Walmart DSP, which is a fully built out DSP, or making their data available for measurement and targeting. So
absolutely.
Definitely close the gap in a meaningful way, especially this year. And it's something we're super excited about going into next year as we get out of the beta.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, we've seen obviously from Target, in addition to Walmart, we had speakers today, with Roundel, we had speakers today from Walgreens and 7-Eleven, also talking a lot about retail media and what that looks like for next year. And it makes sense, right? As we look at different data sets, the cookie is going away, but what other data can kind of come in to replace that to provide more value to reach consumers at that moment of purchase or consideration, and then to your earlier point, connect it back to that bottom line, which is the holy grail. And did this actually impact sales? I mean, that would be, it'll be really cool to see kind of some of that come to fruition next year. So that's awesome. again, the whole theme of today, and I'll take a step back and say we really appreciate the quick pivot in live events. It happens, and I know that Joe will do another event with us soon, so we'll reschedule that interview. And unfortunately, right, he had a family emergency, but we do appreciate your flexibility on the pivot. And I would say, again, we are talking about retail predictions for next year. Do you have any personal predictions about, how this industry and this category might continue to unfold? Again, thinking about so much uncertainty with new variants, and people were going back to in shopping, now maybe back to online, and things like supply chain issues. Obviously there's a lot of uncertainty that maybe precludes some of those usual fun predictions, but you are the expert, so I'd love to know, and I'm sure our community would love to know if you have any of those for next year.
I think more than anything, there's maintaining this ability and flexibility to pivot when necessary, depending on what the climate is. That was something I was super excited about talking about with Joe today, is that Ulta has done so much to build out their e-com strategy while also thinking about collaborating to facilitate more in-store shopping. And for people who are concerned about maybe going into stores, of doing curbside pickup through a collaboration with DoorDash. So just really interesting collaborations with very top of mind technology providers, working with more brick and mortar retail providers. So I do see more of those partnerships coming into our world soon. In addition to that, I think we're starting to see it now. So there's not a ton to predict because we're already on this roller coaster together, where retailers are leaning in, advertisers are testing and willing to test brand new partners and see how it works. And we're just going to learn more about how best to run those strategies. Now that we know the capabilities exist, it's
right.
Now the best practices. So I think next year is going to be a year of testing and learning, and then creating a framework that we can all employ across the board.
Yeah, it is interesting because there was so much forced innovation, just right. It was kind of an adapt or die, but now there are so many great learnings. Hey, this is possible. How can we scale this, or how can we make this more efficient? Some of these innovations or new partnerships can persist well beyond, what this current moment, and they can be made, more effective or more efficient. So that'll be really interesting. I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm just thinking about things that we could that could provide some value here. Obviously, what's that?
You have a history in improv, don't you?
Oh, no, none, zero. I think I'd be terrible at improv, honestly. But I appreciate that. But what I would say, again, we went into today, thinking again, we're talking about the future of retail. This is the biggest moment for anybody selling anything, right? Holiday shopping season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Have you seen anything interesting, going either leading into, or any of the, initial data, or, coming out of how the initial holiday shopping, surge that you find interesting?
It's not something, I think it's like, interestingly, the demand was up this year, but supply chain wasn't able to really support that. And then we basically had a stock market crash due to the new the COVID variant on Friday. So all of the things that we typically expect coming out of the biggest shopping day of the year were really overshadowed. And as a result, we saw the economy have a big dip that day. So I would say more than anything, again, going back to this ability to be flexible is something that is hugely important, because we never know what's going to happen. We might go into, this is the biggest day of the year for sales for me, and then all of a sudden, like, my plastic provider can't get into this port in California, so therefore I have to change my strategy completely and change out my creative and drive people to in-store to purchase something that doesn't contain plastic. So that's where what I've learned mostly is that all of these sort of typical seasonal pivotal moments we just need to be able to pivot and be flexible around those days.
Absolutely. I remember early on, again, in our virtual events in the beginning days of the pandemic, we had a speaker from a CPG, food brand, and he was saying, we have all this creative and advertising driving people to buy frozen pizzas, but we can't keep them on the shelves because it was one of these, things that kept falling out of stock, not because of supply chain issues, but just because of the mad rush. And he's like, should we keep driving to that when they can't buy it? And it, was a very interesting, question and dilemma. So definitely the need to be nimble. We'll wrap in a second but I do have one or two other questions for you. On the beauty side, the team told me that was kind of an area that you, personally specialized in. I mean, the industry has been, it's been fascinating to see the emergence of lots of really new brands, many of which are backed or led by celebrities, Selena Gomez or Rihanna, right? Like what are you seeing in the beauty industry right now that we could, might be notable for our community? Any interesting trends or what to expect for next year?
So because I sit more on the technology side of these verticals, I'm thinking more about like what technologies are they investing in so that they can build out their first party data footprint. Because more than anything with cookies going on, the most important thing is having a better sense of who your consumer is and the ability to continue targeting them when cookies do go away. So the best way to do that and future proof is to find ways to collect that first party data. So whether that is through an app where you can virtually try on makeup, I know that's something that L'Oreal had invested in at one point.
Yes.
Anything where you are engaging with your consumers, but that there is a value exchange. So in order for them to give you their information, they're getting something out of it. And you can see that really well within the beauty landscape where there is that exchange.
Yeah, that's definitely something we talk about a lot in our community, especially as it pertains to data and privacy discussions. It's younger consumers especially are willing to give you that data as long as there is that value exchange. What are you giving me in return? Is it a loyalty and a membership? Is it virtually trying things on, right? So that's definitely key, as opposed to, opening up the app for the first time and it's like, give us all your data. And it's like, well, what are you giving me first, right? I'm always taken aback. It's like, I haven't even used the app yet and you're asking me to sign away my rights. But I think, to your point, the beauty industry has done a really good job of kind of very explicitly demonstrating what is that value. So my last question will be, you personally, Kendra, I always like when I moderate these, discussions is, everybody's behaviors have changed somewhat on a human personal level. People take up new hobbies. They start watching new shows. Have you done anything that you've taken on any kind of new hobbies or passion projects over the last year, or is it just, work?
I became a mom 2 years ago, right before COVID hit. So I would say that's my main hobby outside of working.
That'll take up most of your time, certainly.
It's a completely new split identity of being a mother and someone who's collectively going through the pandemic with the rest of the globe and an employee at a very fast growing technology company. So figuring out that new me as we were all adjusting to the new normal, I would say would be that major thing of how do we balance all the self-care that I used to have time for, finding ways to have those moments throughout days and navigating with my husband on childcare and with work of creating the boundaries around that. And that's been something that's been great about working through the trade desk is that there is such a wonderful understanding of there's work, but more than anything, and especially I think in light of Joe not being able to join today's family above all else. So that's something that I've always felt from the trade desk. They are a family of mine, but the fact that they give me the space to navigate that in such a safe way is something that I've really valued over the last 2 years.
I love that. And that's also, again, another recurring theme we've heard today. Marissa from 7-Eleven was talking about that internal team culture. And when you can, foster and develop that family-like feeling and atmosphere, like everybody is willing to go the extra mile. You all help each other out when you need to. So that's really fantastic. A very belated congrats. I don't know if you've had to deal with at the very beginning of the pandemic. My younger daughter made several appearances on our virtual events, bursting through the doors, turning on the camera, right? So if it hasn't happened yet, I'm sure it's inevitable. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the quick pivot. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. Thank you to our amazing speakers and, of course, all of your colleagues, Kendra, who moderated today, and our partners at Trade Desk. We will make sure to, be in touch with Joe, and we'll bring him back because I know it would have been a great chat. So we'll find another time for that. And we look forward to seeing everyone on our next live cast. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful holiday season. And it's been great chatting.
Thanks, David. So nice to meet you. Bye.
Nice to meet you too. To everyone who tuned in, again, thank you so much. If retail is your passion, we are planning as part of, I mentioned, our return to in-person. We have a 2-day retail and commerce event in New York in January. So stay tuned for some more details on that. We'll be talking about everything from CPG marketing, driving foot traffic, omni-channel innovation, luxury retail, all sorts of great topics. So you will hear more about that program and our speakers, and that will be in person in New York. Fingers crossed if it's safe to do so in January. So with that, have a wonderful holiday season to everybody tuning in here on Zoom and on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you on our next live cast tomorrow.